Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our August 12th North Middlesex Council meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Everyone is present. It is with great respect that we acknowledge the land that we are gathered upon here today as the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinabeg, Haudenosaunee, and the Lenape peoples. It is through connection with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. At this time, just before we start, I want to congratulate the Park Hill Agricultural Society on the success of their 166th Park Hill Fair. Part of the exhibits that they annually are art pieces submitted by community members. And I have the pleasure to showcase the winner of the Mayor's Choice Awards tonight. The first piece is from the novice category, is from children aged 5 to 8 years old. And there's the piece. I'd like to see anybody here on council do better than the 8-year-olds, but this is Gabriel Chapman's work. It's excellent. The next category is the 9 to 13, and that is for junior selection, and that is Josie Palmatier, and that's Small Town Girls, what it's called. The third piece is, I'll say, the high school age piece, and that is Lily Minton that painted that. I do have it the right way up, right? Okay. And I think you have to see that close to really appreciate it because it is really nice. And the last one is our adult piece. And this is, have you got it? This is Christina Archer, who painted that. And I want to congratulate all of the people who won, and plus all of the other exhibits that were there. If you want to have a better look at them, when we're on a break, you can have a better look at them. I want to congratulate all of those and everyone at the fair. At this time, disclose your pecuniary interests. Seeing none. Minutes of the just before we go to the minutes, I'd like you to add 8.2 to the agenda. That's in correspondence. And what's that? Yeah, I need a motion. What is it for, though?
Thank you. And through you, your worship, item 8.2 is in addition to consider sponsorship opportunities for the James Brown golf tournament.
Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Now, the minutes of the previous meeting for July 15th, council meeting, July 26th, special council meeting. I am looking, any errors or omissions or business arising from it? If not, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Keogh, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? That's carried. At this time, we need to proceed from into public meeting, including committee of adjustment, to consider the planning matters identified on the agenda. We have a mover for that. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councillor Irwin, all in favor? That's carried. Our first public meeting is drainage, and a meeting to consider the Brown Rose drain. And Josh, you coming up? Kristen?
Mayor, members of council, the meeting to consider the engineer's report is based on the design of the drain. This allows landowners to add or remove their names from the request. Any costs associated with the assessments of this report will be dealt with at quarter revision. The Brown Rose Drain is located in the former township of East Williams between Petty Street and Argyle Street. Josh Warner from RDOB Engineering was appointed as engineer to this project. I will now refer to Josh for his review of the design of the drain, and then I'll read my proposed motion and staff recommendation.
Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you. Through the chair, the Brown Rose Drain Report has been prepared under Section 78 of the Drainage Act as authorized by an appointment from council on July 16th, 2025. An on-site meeting was held on August 7th, 2025. At this meeting, it was requested that Branch B be replaced upstream of Argyle Street and that improvements be made to the entirety of the main drain and Branch C. At the meeting, it was discussed that the drain between Argyle Street and Petty Street had been twinned through most of this section under an engineer's report from 19 1980. The landowners indicated that they felt the existing tile was still in good condition. However, the existing drain does not have the capacity that would be recommended under the current design standards. It was therefore discussed that a preliminary report be prepared to provide options for the improvements. A preliminary report was prepared and a meeting was held on April 9th, 2026. The report proposed replacement of branch B upstream of Argyle Street, designed to a runoff coefficient of 38 millimeters in 24 hours. The preliminary report provided 5 options for improvements to the main drain and branch C. The first being the drain would be designed to match the existing capacity of the 1980 tile, with no improvements proposed to the section where the 1980 tile exists. Options 2 and 3, the drain would be improved to accommodate a runoff coefficient of 50 millimeters in 24 hours for the entirety of the main drain and branch C. Under this option, one alternative would leave the existing 1980 tiles in place and add a third tile, while the other alternative would abandon the existing 1980 tiles as part of the project and replace it entirely. Options 4 and 5 are similar to those, however, designed to the 38 millimeters in 24 hours. There were 5 total options presented for the main drain and branch C improvements at the preliminary report meeting. The landowners at the meeting supported proceeding with option 4, which proposed a design based on a runoff coefficient of 38 millimeters in 24 hours, and the addition of a third tile to support the 2 existing tiles installed in 1980. At this meeting, the landowners also requested that the proposed third tile be installed between the 2 existing tiles, as one of the farms had recently been tiled. Following the meeting, we located the existing tiles at multiple locations to verify that the proposed alignment could be constructed between the 2 existing tiles. We then proceeded with preparation of the final report. So the final report proposes the addition of a third tile to the existing 1980 Brown Rose main drain tiles, extending from the outlet to branch B. The new tile will be installed between the 2 existing tiles. The main drain is proposed to be replaced upstream of branch B. Branch C is proposed to be replaced entirely, and branch B is proposed to be replaced upstream of Argyle Street. As part of the project, there's also a road crossing on Argyle Street, a water main lowering on Argyle Street, and relocation of the existing twin tile at the most downstream section of the drain. These works are required to allow the 3 tiles to be replaced within the available working corridor. All of the proposed drain improvements have been designed to accommodate a runoff coefficient of 38 millimeters in 24 hours. The total estimated cost for the project is $528,668. That concludes the overview of the proposed works. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear comments from council or landowners.
Okay, thank you. At this time, is there any questions from affected landowners on this drain? I'll ask once again, any questions from the affected landowners on this drain? Seeing none, I have to ask as well, is there anybody who'd like to have their name added or removed from this project? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to council for questions. No questions from council? We'll have a recommendation. I think we are putting them up on the screen, correct? So that everybody can see the recommendations. Is there something, Kristen, you want before we go to this?
No, I can read the recommendations.
Okay.
If you want, or we can just proceed with the motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. Therefore, the motion and staff recommendation is that council receives report DIO 53 of 2026 regarding the meeting to consider the engineer's report for the Brown Rose Drain 2026 for information, and that council accepts the final report for the Brown Rose Drain 2026 prepared by R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated, dated July 9th, 2026, and that the first sitting of the quarter revision on behalf of the Brown Rose Drain be scheduled for September 2nd, 2026 at 5:30.
Thank you. You have the recommendation in front of you, moved by Councillor Keo, seconded by Councillor Daigle, sorry. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Josh. Our next item is number 5, public meeting including Committee of Adjustment. That is to consider application B7 2026 located at 28660 Coldstream Road. Are the applicants here? Would you like to come sit up here or? All right. Welcome. Ashley, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Rob. Just going to zoom in a little bit so it's a bit easier to see. So the subject lands do not currently have a 911 address assigned them, being that they are the farmlands surrounding the subject property. But they are subject to the surrounding lands of 28660 Coldstream Road, just as shown on the map. The lands are located east of Kerwood Road, otherwise known as County Road number 6, and they are on the north side of Coldstream. The lands are currently approximately 40.554 hectares or 100.17 acres in size and are currently vacant of any buildings or structures. The lands are located in an agricultural designation in the official plan, and they are zoned as general agricultural as well. So the purpose of the lot adjustment, I'm just going to zoom in here to show you a close-up. The purpose of the lot adjustment is to merge approximately 0.4 hectares or 1 acre of vacant grassed area from the subject lands with 28660 Coldstream Road, which is currently a rural residential parcel. If approved, the lot adjustment would bring the rural residential parcel from 1 acre in size to 2 acres in size, and it would reduce the size of the subject lands, being the farmlands, to 99.17 acres. No changes to servicing, access, or use are currently proposed. The application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Integris, the Lake Huron and Elgin area water supply system, and the county engineer noted no comments. Emergency Services and the Infrastructure and Operations Department did note that 911 addressing and signage will need to be confirmed as a condition if approved. The Drainage Superintendent did note that a reapportionment of assessment for the McKinnon Drain will be required. And comments received after my report submission from the ABCA indicated that they have no natural hazard concern regarding the application, but do take this opportunity to remind the owner of the farmlands that they have portions of their lands regulated by the Conservation Authority, and they must be contacted prior to any works in those regulated areas. No comments were made by members of the public in advance of this meeting, but we are certainly here to receive additional feedback verbally this evening if there is any. The policy context and analysis is outlined in detail in my report, so I will keep it very high level just by saying that minor lot boundary adjustments in prime agricultural areas may be considered for a legal or technical reason. It is staff's opinion that the application represents a minor boundary adjustment intended to provide access to the rear door of the existing accessory structure and access for maintenance of existing propane tanks and generators without crossing onto the subject lands, which, while these were previously under the same ownership, are now under separate ownership. The additional lands will also provide a septic contingency area when a replacement is needed in the future. That said, for the reasons outlined in detail in my report, staff are recommending the consent be granted with the conditions listed, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about specific conditions as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time? Not at this time. There's no written submissions. Any comments from the public on this application? Seeing none. Committee, questions? Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question to the applicant here. I was actually hoping to get over and see that piece of property as a drive-by, so I'm gonna, the piece to the east, is it a fairly level piece of ground? Is it level? You know, it's fairly level. Okay, that's the one thing. I was wondering if there was a gully or not a gully, but anything, a big swell in it or something that made me change my. I'm one of the ones that's having a hard time with this. And back, I assume, I have no idea the year that this was severed, what year, but anyways, to me, when you look at it, it looks like a very well done severance for a piece of property. I have a problem with the additional part to it because it seems like it's for convenience and not for necessity. Like when I say convenience, you just need a little bit more to work. When you say, and I'm thinking if I look at that map, which was moved, the propane tank and the generator is right beside the one laneway there and everything else. And that seemed like, okay, we would like more grass or more area to service them. And same thing for going, I think it's to the north at the other end of the shed. I have a hard time adding on to it when that could be workable land. The whole idea of this back when surplus farm dwellings were put in the law was to keep the number of, the size of them down to the smallest you can get and make it a workable severance property, being as the well or water line and the septic system is all on that piece of property. So I have, just to add on the little bit more, I'm thinking that down the road, anybody who has an acre lot, I think we're setting a precedent here that all of a sudden, wow, they gave it to them. I'm going to put another grassy area out around my piece of property and I'm going to ask for it. And see if I can make my piece of property a little bit bigger. That's the part I have with it. May I ask, how long has that been a grassy? Is that a fair question to ask? How much that's been a grass? So it has been a grassy area. And I'm wondering, okay, I wasn't there, why that wasn't completely severed off back then and did completely then, which would have made more sense. You know, and I don't know when it was a case too. I mean, again, number one, I guess you get along, the neighbor doesn't want it back, saying I could put corn in there at $6 a bushel. So, but I'm not, yes, I'm against it, but I'm wondering if the green line, instead of, I think for 25 meters across, and I think I did throw this at Ashley, whether that could be changed to 10 meters that way as opposed to, and 10 meters behind, whether that would give you, I know you'd like the whole thing. I know, and I know that, but if we kept it down to a more sizable lot and did it that way and is a compromise, but that's just my opinion and thoughts. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments on this? No other questions or comments? We've heard from one person. We have a recommendation. I believe that will come up. Councillor Irwin.
I'll move the recommendation, your worship.
Okay. Seconding it? It's seconded. We'll get it up on screen before we vote on it. Maybe we won't. And I understand it takes a second, but it lets the public know that are watching, it lets them see the recommendation. Oh, well, we can do that one again if you like. Yeah, we know how it'll end up. And we've just started doing this, so I appreciate, Amanda, appreciate you doing it. Well, we'll see the recommendation coming up. The recommendation has been moved. There hasn't been any ask for a change in the recommendation. Right, okay. There we have it. Okay. Any other questions, comments before we vote? This is the recommendation we're voting on. That's the original recommendation. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're not, if there was an amendment to it, absolutely, I would. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Does this added spot, does that prevent, does it stop any other further building on that expansion?
I would ask
Does that
Ashley.
stop any, can they build another shed or something on that green area? Or a building of some kind? And I'm thinking, okay, an alternate building, an area, we said, just cause anything like that. That's just a thought.
Yep. Ashley, do you want to answer that?
Thank you through Chair Ropp. So the property is zoned general agricultural, so it would be pretty tight for them to be able to put an agricultural structure on it. There's also not an agricultural use, but potentially they could put a residential accessory structure there, subject to meeting setbacks.
Councillor Canelson.
Thank you, Mayor. So actually, just to refresh my memory, if they wanted to build a larger shed, a garage, a work area, they could do that as well, and there would not be a height restriction as it has been in the past, correct?
Thank you through Chair Ropp. So we did increase the height permissions to 6.5 meters from grade to peak. So it is a lot more lenient than it was in the past at 5 meters.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder in favor of the motion. Opposed? One opposed. It is carried. Thank you. All right, our next item of business is public meeting to consider the North Middlesex official plan review. Abby.
Thank you, Chair Ropp. Through you to members of council. So first and foremost, I want to start by saying that the purpose of tonight's public meeting is to provide an opportunity for members of the public and members of council to provide feedback on the draft official plan. Staff will listen and give consideration to the comments received this evening and may make changes to the proposed official plan based on the feedback received. It is important to remember that the official plan is a living document. While it does establish a long-term planning framework, it is not intended to remain unchanged for the next 30 years. Provincial legislation and policy, infrastructure, development activity, and local circumstances will continue to evolve, and the official plan will continue to be monitored and updated accordingly. So moving over to my PowerPoint, if you want to go to the next slide, please. So in terms of an agenda, I'm going to talk about what an official plan is, what we have done to date, proposed changes, next steps, and then it can move into the public meeting. So what is an official plan? It is a document that sets out a land use policy vision based on long-term goals and objectives. It's a comprehensive document that contains goals, policies, and land use schedules that sets the 30-year framework for land use decisions in detailed planning and provision of municipal services. Official plans indicate where housing, agriculture, industry, commercial, and retail land uses will be located. I have included a handy little infographic here that kind of shows the planning framework in the province of Ontario that starts with the provincial planning statement and then the county official plan, which then goes down into the North Middlesex official plan. And then, of course, the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, which then kind of bleeds over into your land division, site plan, and what have you. So in terms of what has been done to date, we have reviewed the official plan to incorporate new provincial legislation and policies, updated county policy, and to guide growth over a 30-year period to 2056. Background work was undertaken through a series of 4 discussion papers. The discussion papers are intended to provide information on the provincial policy framework, the county policy framework, what exists in the current North Middlesex official plan, and then the recommended changes based on the provincial and county frameworks. In conjunction with the preparation of the discussion papers, a community survey was undertaken and consultation with the municipality's Economic Development Advisory Committee was undertaken, as well as the statutory public open house was held on July 22nd, 2026. So an overview of the proposed changes will fall under agriculture, housing, employment, and natural heritage. So agriculture is the predominant land use within the municipality and an important component of the economy and rural identity. The need to protect land for future generations while considering flexibility for on-farm uses, economic development, and growth and development were also considered. Proposed changes primarily relate to implementing an agricultural systems approach, which is just the idea of protecting both the agricultural land base in addition to agriculture and agriculture supportive businesses, additional residential units in agricultural areas, the inclusion of policies that speak to on-farm diversified and agriculture-related uses in accordance with the PPS and the guidelines provided to us by OMAFA. Surplus farm dwellings, which is largely a PPS alignment exercise, as well as just a general review of the consent policies in agricultural areas. The urban reserve designation and your MDS policies or minimum distance separation policies, as well as just farmland protection generally. So under housing, the draft OP includes updated projections that are based on the 2024 Ministry of Finance projections that note that approximately 37 new homes will be required per year to the year 2056. Of course, housing is a complex issue that has important implications for the municipality. This was identified as a key topic through community survey responses, as well as the discussions with the Economic Development Advisory Committee in terms of housing for economic development purposes and like labor and what have you. The municipality did undertake a housing-focused housekeeping amendment to the official plan earlier on this year that was in support of the Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives and the implementation of that. So the proposed official plan amendment before us today would build on that work. And the proposed changes primarily relate to additional residential units within settlement areas and agricultural areas. Residential densities that would align with the have-to work that was already implemented through the zoning bylaw amendment. Encouraging a diversity of housing options because the definition of housing options was largely expanded on in the 2024 iteration of the provincial planning statement. It also includes updated and new definitions to align with the have-to work and to ensure PPS conformity. It also includes criteria as it relates to privately initiated applications to expand your settlement area boundaries. And then it includes the updated population, housing, and employment forecasts. So on the next slide here, I've included a snapshot of the projections for the population and housing projections for North Middlesex. So these were undertaken in support of the county official plan update and are intended to be included in both the county and local official plans to assist with managing growth and development. The proposed changes do reflect a 30-year planning horizon. And again, these numbers are based on the 2024 Ministry of Finance projections in accordance with the PPS. So on employment lands are areas designated to accommodate clusters of business and economic activity, including industrial, rural industrial, and business parks. Under the new PPS, the municipal comprehensive review is no longer required for employment land conversions. Protecting these areas through land use planning helps maintain long-term employment capacity and supports a diverse business environment, including agribusinesses. The PPS and Planning Act now provide a more rigid definition of employment areas that narrowly scopes the uses permitted to those being more like heavily industrial in nature and more noxious in nature. And the policies in the PPS are more conducive to those types of uses. So the proposed changes in this regard include updated employment areas policies, which again is a PPS alignment exercise, employment land conversion policies, which align with what's outlined in the county official plan. And then this official plan amendment, the proposed official plan amendment also expands on policy direction to support agriculture and agribusiness opportunities in the municipality. So under natural heritage, the identification of natural heritage features, including natural hazards, is an important undertaking. These features not only provide natural landscapes that contribute to the livelihood of residents, but they also perform important ecological functions, such as providing habitat for wildlife and mitigating erosion and flooding. Proposed changes under natural heritage include the inclusion of policies that speak to addressing climate change, updated policies to align with the PPS and county official plan. There was a review taken of the source water protection policies in the existing official plan, as well as a review of the existing land use schedules. So just a summary. So subject to further input from the public and council, The proposed official plan amendment would incorporate new provincial legislation and policies, as well as updated county policies, including bringing the official plan into consistency with the provincial planning statement and into conformity with the updated county official plan. It would guide growth over a 30-year period from 2026 to 2056, and it would reflect, where possible, input received through consultation and engagement. Council can consider additional changes based on input from the public meeting, their perspectives, and any other considerations. And then I would just note that Ontario is transitioning towards a standardized official plan framework intended to improve consistency, clarity, and usability across municipalities. So this section of the Planning Act hasn't been brought into force by the Lieutenant Governor. However, it does currently state that municipalities will eventually need to transition their official plans to this framework, while continuing to maintain policies that reflect local context and priorities over the next 5 years. So we're in a little bit of a gray area as it relates to this whole topic, but hopefully we'll have a little bit more information on this in the coming months. So in terms of next steps, obviously today is the public meeting. Staff would be looking to bring a council report and direction before council in September, which council could choose to adopt the proposed official plan. And then following council adoption of the official plan, it would be submitted to the County of Middlesex as the approval authority. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Abby. I'll ask first, is there anyone in the public who wants to make comment on this, on the OPA? Seeing no one, I'll turn it over to council. Who'd like to start? No comments? Councilor Irwin?
I'll start, your worship. I was hoping other members of council would start. So I have given this considerable thought. And I have not gone through all 500 pages, including the zoning bylaws yet, because I didn't have time in the short period of time we had to read everything. But I did do a thorough review of the working papers, and I want to start there. And I'll tell you why I want to start with the working papers, because the working papers are a data set that leads to the assumptions, and the plan is based on those assumptions. Assumptions like we're only going to need 35 housing units a year, when actually we have seen since 2023, there's been a sea change, 60, 65 units the last 2 years. This year, the first 6 months, over 80. So we're seeing growth escalating, and I think that's an important assumption we have to address before we get into the draft official plan. Other areas that I have a concern about is employment growth is estimated at only 29 positions per year. And that's contrary to what we saw in the economic development plan that this council has accepted in 2024 as a council document. So I'd like to go back and rethink about that working paper and the thoughts around that in terms of where our employment lands and how are we going to find diversified economic growth in our community in future. The other issue I'd like to think about is, you know, we at one point in the document it talked about we have a 96-year supply of land for housing. I'm not sure if we do, and in part, I want us to think about this consideration. Where do people want to live in North Middlesex? So while we may have a supply of housing throughout, or land for housing, I should say, throughout our community, maybe people want to live more in one area of the community over another. And do we have enough housing consideration in that area over another area? So it's not a raw number. It really deals with, as a real estate agents will tell you, location. So something to think about there. In both the economic development plan and the recreation facilities master plan that this council has approved previously, we saw not only numbers in terms of demographic growth, but we also saw a breakout of age. And that's important for us to consider when we think about institutional land planning, playing fields, potential schools, maybe seniors' places, etc. I'd like to see more detail of that in the working papers before we get into the draft plan itself. I'm just going through some notes I've got here. a big consideration that I want us to think about, and this was something I noted at budget time this year and last year, is just where is our tax levy coming from? So approximately 60% of our tax levy comes from residential, approximately 30% comes from agriculture. We know we probably have peak agriculture. I don't think we're going to see much growth in not agribusiness, but agriculture itself. It's peaked. So can our existing residential cover the increased costs we're going to see in our community for growth? Can we share of our taxpayer another 4 or 5% a year tax levy every single year? Or should we be planning for some sort of economic growth so that we can maintain the current level of services? Otherwise, we're going to see significant tax increases or a decrease in service to our community. So we need to plan for growth, growth in both of residential, but more importantly, I think the other categories, retail, commercial, and industrial. And that should be part of our official plan. What is our council vision around that growth? Okay, it's our responsibility to shepherd growth to meet service demands while maintaining a financial cost to our ratepayers that they can afford. And I think that's part of the official plan process. And that's a council responsibility. So that's not a planning responsibility, that's a council responsibility that helps to form the plan. The one thing I didn't note in the agricultural working papers, and I want us to think about, it was mentioned, is the increased consolidation of agricultural land. Oh, that's not anything that we can deal with at this council. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a reality. Agricultural land is being consolidated. Farms are growing at a significant rate. I like to see a trend analysis of how fast that rate is. We have 480 plus farms, as noted in the working papers of the official plan. What's that going to look like in 20 years? And that has real planning implications for us. If it grows at a faster rate, if we lose that number significantly with larger and larger farms, would that depopulate our rural areas? What does that mean for us? What does that mean for road maintenance? What's that mean for potential drainage issues? Something we need to think about as part of an official plan process, I would suggest. And what does that mean for our I'm going to call them settlement areas. I know we have 3 different categories now recommended in the OP, but I'll just call them settlement areas. What does that mean for our settlement areas if we don't plan for growth of those areas? Will we restrict growth in future? And how will that impact us financially? I have real concerns around our financial viability unless we plan for growth beyond consolidated agriculture. And I'm all for agribusiness. I think our economic development plan speaks to it. So it's not agribusiness per se. It's the type of agriculture that doesn't allow for other economic activities to occur. Larger farms, smaller workforces, consolidated farms, that's a reality for the future. What do we need to do as a community to ensure that we remain economically viable and can pay our bills and maintain the quality of life for all our residents? That's something we need to consider. So I didn't get into, or I actually did, but I didn't write out my thoughts on the draft official plan. I brought them with me. I probably have comments on every red line page of them. But my thought is we need to return to our working papers, to our data sets, and as a council, make sure have our input on those. And if council may remember, we were initially told we would start this in May of 2015, where the working papers would come staggered over a period of time to council. We would provide our input on them, and then they would form the databases for the OP. For whatever reasons, and it's not a naming and blaming exercise, believe me, that didn't occur, but I need some time, and I think we need some time to consider the data sets, and then see how they may impact the draft OP document that we have in front of us at this time. So there's some initial thoughts, Your Worship. I might have more, but I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I do have one question, Abby, on the projections. do we get to pick the projections or are they provincially supplied projections for growth?
Thank you for your question. So the projections that we're dealing with today are the projections that were just recently done through the county official plan update and then ministry approved. So they were undertaken by Watson and Associates on behalf of the county, utilizing the 2024 Ministry of Finance projections. And then they, based on PPS direction, are set at the upper tier. They're ministry approved, and then they're to be utilized by the local municipalities.
Okay.
I do just want to note that the population, housing, and employment forecasts are truly forecasts and should not be interpreted as being absolutes for the 30-year period. They can be revisited and revised every 5 years or more frequently if necessary, based on local circumstances. The projections in the draft official plan are based on the Ministry of Finance forecasts, as I just said. And they, like that exercise that Watson did is essentially a balance of inputs that are both national, regional, and local. So it did, they did consider changes such as federal immigration policy or interest rates. And the local impacts of that are often not known for like a significant period of time. And that's all noted in the growth analysis report that was posted on the municipality's website with the discussion papers. I would also note that the forecasts are best estimates based on the information available at the time. But again, they must be revisited over time. Staff are of the opinion that the forecast growth and ultimately the land needs forecast for a 30-year horizon, and it does provide significant capacity for growth over the next 5 years. I just want to say that I do recognize the importance of considering local data and trends alongside those forecasts. And yeah, that's really my response to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Nerda.
I've read the working papers and I'm somewhat disappointed. I wanted a little bit more from these working papers. Was our own data from our CBO ever considered for 2024, 2025, and part of 2026? And what about our fire master plan, our economic development plan, and our recreation master plan? Were those ever considered? Because I find it quite difficult to rely on one report that was done for the county. And I feel that our local needs weren't considered.
Thank you for your question and your comments. So in terms of the like land needs paper, so that incorporated building permit data up to the end of 2024, and that was just due to the timing of when that study was undertaken. Studies of that nature, they do take quite a bit of time. So we were able to provide the building permit data to the end of 2024, given that that exercise was started in spring of last year. And it incorporates, so your local building permit data, all of your planning applications that were in either the proposed, the draft stage, or like a final plan approval were also incorporated in those numbers for the land needs. And then it also included the Ministry of Finance projections as well. So that's what that data is based on. So it was what was available at that current time. If council decides that they want a more in-depth look at that stuff, that certainly can be something that staff can consider. We can look at some sort of averaging out that would include the numbers from 2025 if that's what council deems necessary. But again, I would just reiterate that this is it's not a static document, it's dynamic. It can be revisited and revised again every 5 years or sooner, subject to council's wishes.
You didn't answer my last part. Were our own master plans included in this document? Because I don't see any reference to them.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump in here. So we have reviewed those plans in great detail and where the data came from. I will note that a lot of those plans rely on planning application numbers only and do not consider building permit data. So they're not considering actual shovels in the ground, whereas the data that we are using does. So planning application numbers, I will say, and I have said to staff here as well, can be overly deceiving in that, for instance, you may have a subdivision that was draft approved in 2018 but not fully built out. Well, that's inflating your numbers. So in my opinion, it's very important to also look at building permit data in that regards, and that wasn't necessarily completed for some of those plans locally.
Okay. Councillor Daigle?
Thank you. And through you, I agree with Bill, a lot of things Bill has said. The 2024 data, how far back does that go? Like, that ends in 2024? What period of time are they analyzing?
Thank you for your question. And through the chair, 2018 to 2024 is what was analyzed. So 5-year period.
Okay.
Or 6.
With what's going on right now in our economy, the federal government's throwing money, provincial government's throwing money for us to put up homes. And we are doing that. We have got, I thought, close to 1,000 lots available now with all the different subdivisions around. To say 35 lots does make us look like a little sleepy little hamlet. Like, I think we're going twice that rate at least.
At this time.
At this time.
At this time.
But with all those lots sitting up there, it's going to go for more than just 2 or 3 years. That's
Okay. Other comments, questions? Sam, did you want to? I'm
Thanks.
sorry. Go ahead, Abby.
Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to ask, and this is actually posing a question back to the members of council. I don't want to call it a fixation, but the interest in the numbers, I guess, and them being higher than what the ministry approved. I guess I'm just personally curious on what the hopeful outcome is there.
By
If-
making them higher, you mean?
Correct, yes.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship, through you, and I'd be happy to respond to that inquiry. My concern is locking ourselves into this for 5 years, or let's be honest, our current official plan was done in 2003, 26 years ago, 23 years ago, excuse my math. It was reviewed in 2014, 12 years ago. It hasn't been reviewed in 5-year periods of time. So my concern is locking ourselves into something that, even though we can review it in 5 years, we may not. We're making decisions now that at the very least would lock us into something for 5 years. I know we can go back and do an official plan amendment, but that's a lot of work. I'd rather just take our time right now and get the numbers correct and move ahead. So here's my thought, and it's a question. If we were to ask our staff to review these working papers and bring their numbers back to the September meeting, as opposed to approving this document in September, what would be the negative consequences of that?
Thank you, Worship. Again, I guess I would just counter that, like, numbers cannot be approved different than what the ministry has already approved. So again, I guess I go back to what is the outcome of doing that? Because we can show all these numbers, which is fine. But obviously, if you're trying to set higher targets, A, it's not ministry approved and we can't use that. And B, that's based on current data, which to the mayor's point is what we know now, but that certainly is subject to change. And I do agree with what the planner said. We can't take planning numbers at face value. We have to take shovels in the ground. And those planning numbers do inflate the numbers. So again, I guess I would just pose it back that we can't use anything different than what the ministry has approved. And if we were to show different numbers, I guess I would just be curious to what the outcome is. Because again, back to one of the other planners' comments, at this point is just a conformity exercise. We're conforming to the PPS and we're conforming to the county OP. So that's not to say that all the points being brought up are good ones, or that they couldn't be done as part of the next OP that we are going to have to do subject to what the province puts out. It's just to say that that was the intent of this, was to be a conformity exercise, and that we have to use the numbers that the ministry approves.
Just before I go to you, Councillor, one comment I'd made, the last official plan that we did certainly did not show the growth that we're having now. And it absolutely did not impede on us moving forward. Like on us growing. We weren't bound by the last official plan to stop us from growing. That's Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I would just like to go back to a comment that Abby, you had made. You had mentioned that this is a document that if moving forward in the future needs to be modified or amended, it can easily be done upon request, correct? What we are not, it is framework that it's set out. It's more of a guidance, but it's not in stone. Is that correct?
Yeah, thanks for your question. That's correct. And I would just note that the provincial framework that we're operating in right now that they've removed the requirement for the municipal comprehensive review and we're able to entertain privately initiated requests for settlement area boundary expansions, it really is self-correcting. So if there's a developer who owns land on the periphery of a settlement area boundary and they are looking to have their lands added to develop, they're able to do that now. So if, growth continues as it has the last 2 or 3 years here in North Middlesex, the system more easily allows for it to be almost market driven. And, the framework does allow for these individual applications to be considered by councils, subject to criteria. So it would incorporate like your financial information, all of your servicing and infrastructure information and what have you. And that's all outlined in the proposed draft. So it's not just a municipally driven exercise as it has been for the last 20 to 25 years, in that these applicants can bring these applications forward.
Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, Councillor Nerda and then Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to come back to our 96-year supply of land. How did we come up with that number? And a second to that, what surplus lands does the municipality have? We've been asking for that list for some time. Do we have status on that as well?
Thanks for your question. So again, that number is based on that land use assessment that, looked at the building permit data, your planning applications, the amount of land that's currently considered vacant, as well as your population and housing projections. So it was comprehensively looked at, and that's where that number comes from. Again, these numbers are all subject to change through like subsequent updates. So again, I would just caution looking at these numbers like they're written in stone for the next 30 years. So if these trends that have, taken place over the last 3 years do continue, those numbers are certainly subject to change at the time of your next review. In terms of the list of surplus lands, could you clarify like what you mean by surplus? Like, are you talking about municipally owned? Okay.
Yeah, and that was asked for in-house. That wasn't asked for through you. That was just and I think Sam, maybe are you good with that? Maybe Sam can help out with the other.
Yeah, so through your worship, all I can say to that at this point is that that's something that I can certainly look into and report back. That's not something that I have an answer on or have to date, but I can look on that and report back.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And it's not to that point, but it's just to a lot of the comments that have been brought up in something we haven't talked about yet. But it has been talked about before. The municipality does not have a master servicing plan, and it's hard to have a lot of these conversations without having actual tangible data with what you can actually service or lack thereof. So I just wanted to make that point that well, I don't disagree with a lot of the comments and the discussion being had. Without that study, it's hard to make decisions without knowing what you can and cannot service and where. So I guess I would just summarize that by saying that it is something that staff have on the list to bring forward and something that we need to do, which would be something that certainly would feed into those discussions, but it's not something that we have at this current moment in time.
Okay. Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you once again, just a few comments. And I did make reference to the master servicing plan in my written notes. I understand that developers can privately ask for subdivision expansion, but I'm talking about what we publicly could and should do and what kind of signal we're sending to the community about ourselves. Are we saying that we are looking for growth and expansion? Or are we saying to the community, we're okay with the size we are, but if you force us to, we'll let you put a subdivision in? I'm thinking we need to publicly say, this is what we want to be and who we are in our planning process. What brand does council want to portray to the broader community about ourselves? And that, I think, is an important part of the OP. Let's go back to the data question. All right. And I've spent 40 years working on evaluation and policy development. Data leads to assumptions. Assumptions lead to policy. If we get the data wrong, we got the assumptions wrong, and then our plan doesn't fit. Our assumptions right now is we have enough land and that our agricultural driver will be, or either economic driver will be agriculture. Agriculture is and always will be important. It is not the driver for future expansion. Agribusiness, yes. Other business, yes. Putting aside land and thought around that, incredibly important. And I like to see that back in an official plan document for us. We have an obligation to our community and our ratepayers to look at where future tax dollars are going to come from, because if we don't, we're going to hit a crisis soon. We're going to look for double-digit increases in the residential levy, or we're going to look for considerable and significant service cuts. So we need to plan for that, and we need to say that out loud, and that's what an official plan does. So what's the rush? Why do we have to prove this in 1 month? I've waited 4 years for this. I've asked for this since I first got elected on council 4 years ago. What is the rush that we want to approve this in September? Why can we not go back and look at that? I understand the data issues, but we can look at it internally and we can look at our own set of assumptions, and then we can approve it after we have that in-depth look. Go back to the process we were promised last year. We were also told last year, and for whatever reason, and I understand it could be provincial, we would be doing this process simultaneous with the county, not after the county. And for whatever reason, that didn't happen as well.
Well,
So I think we have an
Counselor,
obligation.
Counselor, let's stick to what we're doing.
But your worship.
Don't
it's
keep
really-
going back to process.
Well, I'll have to respectfully disagree. Your
Well,
worship.
you're also forgetting about the fact that we did flip partway through this for the accelerator. We did flip on this. We did let this go and worked on the accelerator fund. Absolutely was part of the change.
I don't disagree that we have a housing accelerator fund. I don't think that impacted the other
Yeah.
process, but
So-
that's a difference of opinion you and I
But
may have.
that's right. So my point is though, let's stick to the data.
So there's my
the
comment,
plan.
your worship. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Abby, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So if I could potentially make a suggestion, that would include a phased approach to the official plan. That would start largely with this conformity exercise that's before us, or that's been, considered to date in the draft. So essentially that would bring this largely outdated document into consistency with the provincial planning statement and into conformity with the county official plan. And, the policies that are in the draft, they are, supportive of economic development through both agribusiness, and then there are some, reworks to your industrial and commercial designations that do support business development. And then through phase two, hopefully the municipality would be at a stage whereby you have some of that data as it relates to your servicing and your infrastructure. It paints a more accurate picture there. And then you can kind of take a step back and look at more options from like a growth management perspective through that servicing feasibility lens. Thank you.
Sam.
All I was going to add, your worship, is just a reminder to council, on something that I mentioned a few months ago, It's somewhat back to process, but it's somewhat back to new process. The thought and what was communicated at that time was that conformity piece. This was intended to get us into conformity. And again, while the framework is not necessarily fully baked out yet, again, it was communicated at that time that the thought process was get us into conformity. And then when we undoubtedly have to do the next official plan, it would follow all those steps that we are talking about now, but it would be fed by what the planner mentioned there, Abby, about having that master servicing study at that time and all those things. So that was what was communicated a few months ago in terms of what the new process thought was, which was so focused on conformity and then looking at doing all these things as part of the next official plan that we'll have to do.
Okay, thanks. Is there anything else, council? I mean, we have in front of us here a recommendation to take this for information, but to bring it back for September. And that's not the reaction I'm hearing from people, but Sam.
Yes, Your Worship, just to clarify, it doesn't necessarily have to come back by September. It could be September, October, November. It's just a future council meeting subject to how many comments we have to work through and the updates we have to make.
Okay, because I do agree in the fact that it isn't a rush. I don't feel it should be a rush. And I don't think staff feel that way. It's just, but just to have direction and proper direction as to how we go forward. Right? I mean, I'm just looking to council to see, but I think the question is, we keep moving forward.
So just for clarification then, Your Worship, so I can understand what we're going to potentially be voting on here shortly. Receive for information, even if we don't agree with all the information in the document, receive it at least. And then a future date with lots of notice in advance to council of that date. And in the interim, council can forward comments and ask for additional information, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, but I would like to know what you call sufficient amount of time.
Geez, I don't know.
Well,
I've been willing to listen to my fellow councilors on that.
that's what I'm trying to figure out. What do you call sufficient? Councilor Nerda.
I just need clarification on direction to staff to bring forward a report. What are they going to be reporting on? It's quite vague.
Sam.
So through Your Worship, and again, the planners can correct me here if I'm speaking out of turn, but the thought would be that we would bring back the updated official plan at that time and any documents associated with it that did have any proposed updates that would have come based on comments received or anything like that.
Okay, and it doesn't have a time frame on it. That is one thing I would like to, before we vote on this, I'd like to know what do you consider a reasonable amount of time to go over it? Ashley.
Thank you, through Mayor Robb. I would just maybe defer to the clerk on procedurally. Are we able to give documents to members of council in advance of the public? And if so, how far ahead, if that is permitted?
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. I would say that in an effort to maintain transparency and good governance, members of council should be afforded documents consistent with when you provide notice and availability to the public. However, we do have our timelines prescribed by our procedural bylaw on when items get published to the public via the agenda. But if it was going to be made available on the website, we could circulate to the public as well as council in that timeline.
So at the same time. Okay, thank you. That was a great point. But I still haven't heard. Councilor Irwin.
So Your Worship, I'm going back to the report from March 5th, 2025, which talked about a series of working papers coming to council through the process the clerk mentioned for review and approval prior to the OP draft. We've got a basis for those now. I'm hoping that we could have a revised look at those in September, and at that time decide if we go to the OP approval for October. I think that's fair. It gives us a chance to think about the questions that were asked here this evening.
Okay, Abby.
Just to clarify, are you requesting revised discussion papers for September?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, or is that not
Yes.
reasonable?
Yes. Yes.
No, I'm asking the planner. Is that yes? But I'm asking you now, is that reasonable?
Could I have a little bit more direction on the specific revisions that council's requesting, please?
Agreed. Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I'm not sure about you, but I certainly am getting dizzy with going around in circles here. Some councillors aren't happy with the information that was brought forth or the information that this has been based on. Again, it's also been alluded to that it really doesn't matter what the numbers are. You can have fictitious number and still be disappointed with the outcome because they may not match economic factors, immigration, interest rates or anything like that. So I think really what we need to do here is pick a number and pull the trigger. What is it we would like to do? Want to hold this till September, October? We are also getting into the framework of lame duck that we really can't make decisions on this.
We will be in September. We'll be in
So-
lame duck, August 21st. But you want to answer to that?
Let's
the
come
lame
to a
duck
decision.
Thank you, and through you to the counselor. So official plan, the activities related to that do not fall in the purview of the restricted acts. Council would be able to approve.
We would be able to? That won't affect it?
Thank
Okay,
you, that's correct.
okay. Good. Okay. But I agree that needs to be some solid questions, solid comments to be able to make those any changes. Abby.
Yeah, if I could just to reiterate again, the purpose of the discussion papers was to provide information like on the provincial policy framework, the county policy framework, what exists in the official plan, and then provide recommendations based on all of that information. So that's what's in those discussion papers to date. Like it's a focus on the provincial planning framework, the county planning framework, what exists today, and then what changes are requirement in order to make this document consistent with the provincial planning framework and with the county planning framework. Just to clarify.
What's council's wish here? Because we're kind of going around in circles. Councilor Irwin.
Well, if I'll make a motion, Your Worship. I have to say though, I was disappointed to get the policy papers at exactly the same time that I got the draft OP and not in advance.
Okay.
That being said, I would move we review the policy papers in September and the draft OP in October at one of the meetings in the September, October, about picking a meeting date. And I'd be happy to move that as an amended motion, accepting the information with those dates. If you're looking for hard dates, Your Worship.
Yes, I am. Second, I want to get that. You have that? We want to give staff a couple of minutes to be able to adjust it.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I have no issues necessarily with that recommendation. I guess back to the planner's question, though, we still have no comments that we're basing this timeline on, and it's pretty hard to commit to a timeline without knowing what we're going to be doing. So I guess I would just put that out there. If we know what we're looking at and talking about and it's a reasonable timeline, that's not a problem. But if it's not, then it's not going to be attainable.
Go ahead, Councilor Irwin.
I gave 2 pages of comments on the working papers. I'm sure other members of council would be willing to do something similar to help guide the planner.
We have to be very specific with our comments. Ashley, go ahead.
I would just ask too, from like a staff process perspective, we would want these comments in a timely manner so that we have time to address them and
Sure.
get the report to the clerk, which our reports are due a week before to the clerk. They're due a week before that to our manager. So we need some time and ideally direction this evening if you're looking for revisions on what those
But
papers need.
if this is, we're going to review them in September, not asking them to be perfect either by that meeting, correct? I mean, let's talk about giving people a chance to review them and go over them in September and then do in October to look at the official plan. So really, there's no specific request of you right now, other than we have to, as a council, look at stuff, correct? Okay. Yeah, well, for the September meeting, whichever one I think we leave that to staff, which meeting. I don't know the agendas, that's why I asked that. Probably the first one is easier, right? We have planning in the first meeting or the second meeting? Second meeting, so let's set it for the second meeting in September. Yeah, no, if it's not September the second meeting in September, right? And so let's do it that, and then the same way in October. So that's about election night. Let's do it. Let's just set a date and move on. Go ahead.
Sorry, to clarify, is council intending for me to be bringing the draft official plan back to council in October?
Back in October. Go ahead.
I would say that if, and it's council's decision, obviously, but if we're okay with what happens in September, the answer is yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. And through you, the revised motion is on the screen. It identifies September 16th, 2026 as the date to bring forward a revised set of working papers for council's consideration. And that it outlines a future meeting date for the consideration of the official plan approval. So that therefore allows staff to bring it back at any time at council's direction.
Ashley?
Sorry, I just would suggest maybe considering the word revise be removed since we're not revising the papers. It sounds like we're reviewing what's already been published since July.
Okay. Don't keep shaking your head at me, Ralph. Okay, that's front of, is there a mover for that? Councillor Cornelison, seconded by Councillor Nerda, in favor. Okay, let's move on. Thank you. What are we doing here? I kind of forget myself. So adjournment of the meeting, of the public meeting, including a committee of adjustment, adjourned to regular session, be convened. Councillor Nerda, Councillor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Department reports. We can do, it's 5:42. We'll take a break after at 6 o'clock. We'll carry on. I would, yeah, let's just keep going here. 6.1, and that's a report from Chief Building Official, first half of the 2026 building activity summary. That's Wayne on Zoom. Do we have him? Yeah, wake him up.
I'm here.
Can you hear us, Wayne?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. I'm here to present the first half of the 2026 building activity report. It's a very positive report. The number of dwellings created has increased to 83, up from 41 in 2025. The overall construction value has increased to 62 million, up from 24 million in 2025. We expect a strong construction numbers to continue into the second half of this year. The charts that you see in the report, table 1 just outlines the different permits that we issued in the first half of 2026. And the second table is the number of permits that we issued. Table 3 is just a breakdown of the rest of the municipalities that we have service agreements with. Open to any questions if anyone has any.
Thanks, Wayne. Questions? Councillor Irwin.
Yeah, to your worship, sorry, I didn't quite hear the beginning of that. Did I hear it reported that we anticipate the second quarter or the second half to be similar to the first half in growth and numbers? Is that what I heard?
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, yes, that's what we expect, a strong construction numbers to continue.
Okay. Any other questions for Wayne on this? It's a good report. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To you, Wayne. Just a quick question. When one takes a permit out on, let's say, a new single family dwelling, What's the timeline on that before it needs to be renewed?
So,
Or,
have they started through you, Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor? Once started, they have up to a year to complete the project, 6 months to start the project before we review it. Generally, we're about a year and a half before we start doing our reviews of older files.
okay, Mayor, another question. All right, I see, and I'm just looking at your chart form here. We'll just use the new single family dwelling one. 20 permits in the second quarter, and as of to the first year is 26. These are permits, all right, are these, okay, tough question to ask. Are these dwellings that are started right away and let's say built within, I don't know, the appropriate timeline, we'll say 8 months or 10 months or sooner? But I'm questioning, are they all sold? What I'm thinking, are they now occupied dwellings coming into the town and over a period of time? Like now there'll be ones that were sold in the last half of 25. They should be occupied by now, and those people are actually in those houses. Is there any way of telling what actually our increase of occupied houses are, or dwellings, and all the other ones in townhouses as we go forward? It's kind of another set of stats to ask that there are actually people in those houses. I hope I didn't lose you in that.
Through you, Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, we could possibly look at our reporting to see if we can run a report on the number of occupancy inspections
Right.
that we've done in a certain time frame. That would say that that house has occupancy and that there's a potential somebody living there.
That would at least be closer data. That would be closer.
Yes, that would be closer to, and they're actually, when I'm saying, when they're actually tax-paying dwellers that are help paying our bills as opposed to the permit. I just curious if there was any data or anything like that could be looked at. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for Wayne at this time? No other questions? Thank you, Wayne, for your time.
Thank
And
you
we
so
need
much. Have a great evening.
You too. We need a motion to accept that for information. Councilor Keel, Councilor Nerda, all in favor? Yeah, all in favor. Carried. Thank you. Our next report is from Director of Infrastructure and Operations, interim CAO. That is the DIO 55/2026 Enhanced Lagoon Treatment Completion. And we have RVA here tonight or this afternoon, I guess, to fill us in on the information. Might have to bring an extra chair. Thank you very much for coming and staying for that stimulating official plan review. And who's going to start?
Thank you very much, Mayor, for having us. It was actually great seeing this very engaging conversation. I am going to preface by saying we did base some of the numbers on the Watson report, and following some of these conversations about it, we'll steer what the conclusions that we draw off the population projections from the Watson report in our growth study. But we'll start with some introductions here. So my name is Amro McDaddy. I'm the project manager from RV Anderson, and I worked on the lagoon dredging project, the lagoon capacity assessment, and now the Park Hill wastewater treatment facility technology study for future upgrades kind of at the plant. So I'm kind of the consistent voice from RVA throughout the last couple of years on this project, and kind of provide a bit of the background, the history as to how we got here. With me is Austin Bender. He is the lead process engineer on the project, and he's the one that completed the assessment that we're going to be presenting to the council here today. Just want to bring your attention to the picture from Google Earth. They actually got us while we're doing the lagoon dredging in 2025 there. One thing to note is I think it's been a great investment for the council on this dredging. The contractor that completed the work in each of 24 and 25 actually took out more than what he was paid for in each of those 2 years due to commitments to the local farmers. I know there was reference being made here as to how the farmers in this community are the backbone of the community. So in each of the years, approximately 400 additional dry tons were sent out to local farmers with beyond what was paid for by the council and the approved budget. So the farming community did benefit quite a bit from the work that was done here over the last 2 years. Additionally, the dredging unlocked, I think it was 376 homes of additional infrastructure, additional houses that can be built within the municipality of Park Hill. And so that, that goes into the growth that the municipality is seeing here. What we're presenting today is a focus on alternative treatment methods. So the county did a master plan, an environmental assessment of the lagoon. The recommendation of that was a partial mechanical treatment system. And then in 2020, there was an RFP that was put out for engineering design services. There was a consultant retained, and that consultant took a vision of what they thought partial mechanical treatment would be. The capital cost was a lot higher than what the municipality was comfortable with proceeding with at the time. And about this time, about 2 years ago now, when we were talking about I was presenting in front of council about the lagoon dredging work and the advantages of lagoon dredging work. We talked about alternative treatment methods that could be applied here that could open up a lot more capacity, treatment capacity, at a kind of a more competitive price point. And this is what we're here to present today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Austin, and we'll get through our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Emerald, and thank you, council. So you can refer to our slides up there as we go through this. So we'll start with a background on the actual Park Hill Wastewater Treatment Facility, or WWTF, as you'll see it referred to in here. So it is considered to be a facultative lagoon. The only process is wastewater sits in the lagoon over time, solids settle out. There's a normal back to biological process that treats the water, and the lagoons are seasonally discharged spring and fall. So there's no other process in there other than the addition of some chemical for the removal of phosphorus. Right now, the capacity of the treatment plant is around 967 cubic meters per day, and the average daily flow that's received by the plant, and this is a kind of a long-term 5-year average, is around 624. So you can see that we're somewhere around that'd be about 75% of the capacity. A previous study that was completed, not by RVA, but by previous consultants, has estimated that the influent flows could reach as high as 3,466 cubic meters per day. And that was based on building out kind of the available lands at that time. And so there's a need to upgrade the treatment plant at some point in the future to handle the future flows. Go to the second slide. So as Amro mentioned, in 2019, there was a Schedule C class environmental assessment that was completed. And the purpose of that was to determine what's the most feasible wastewater treatment solution to service the community of Park Hill. And out of that came a recommendation to construct, as Amro said, a partial mechanical facility, and which was narrowed down to be an extended aeration mechanical treatment plant. And that would be similar to what is currently in Elsa Craig right now. That's the kind of treatment plant that's there. They also determined that the plant should be constructed in phases, and phase 1 would be a mechanical plant equal to the current rated capacity. So you'd have a treatment plant that is a new mechanical plant. It is able to meet more stringent limits, but it would have the same capacity. So that's an important thing to understand. After the Class EA was done, it was moved to a detailed design, and consultant was retained to come up with a design for this treatment plant. You can see this was up on the screen there is a concept from the Class EA. The construction estimate came in at around $40 million, which was higher than was feasible at the time. And so that design was canceled to look for alternative options. And so I'm just going to flip over to the third page here. So that's a little bit of background here. And so now the objectives of RV Anderson's study, as Amro mentioned, we were assisting the municipality with dredging the Park Hill lagoons and restoring some capacity that way. And it kind of came out of that we would review the design parameters that were used in the 2019 Class EA. We'd review the feasibility of other partial mechanical options, which we'll get into what it's kind of an alternative to a full mechanical plant. We would provide a Class D cost estimate for the feasible options and then do some evaluation and recommend a preferred alternative. You can turn to the next page here. And so a little description on what partial mechanical actually means. And so you can think of it as halfway in between a typical mechanical wastewater plant like what we have in Elsa Craig and what is currently at Park Hill, which is just 2 facultative lagoons. And so the kind of vision here, which is shown kind of the unit process diagram up here, as we move from left to right, just a quick description of the elements here, which will help kind of the rest of the discussion. There's kind of 3 main things that we want to remove when we're talking about wastewater. The first is oxygen demand. Sometimes people call it carbon or organics, or sometimes BOD or biological oxygen demand you might have heard of. And we do that by aerating the lagoons. The bacteria that live in the lagoons or in the wastewater process, they consume this. And so then it can't diminish the oxygen that's in the receiver, which would be Park Hill Creek in this case. The next piece is phosphorus. And we typically do that through chemicals. We add chemicals in, they bind with the phosphorus and they're able to settle out. So they're also not able to impact the environment. And the last major piece is nitrogen. In this case, we're talking about ammonia. Ammonia, when it's at certain concentrations and temperatures in the receiving environment, is quite harmful for aquatic life. And so it's important that we control ammonia too. And so the partial mechanical process here has specific elements to address each one of those. And so moving from left to right, the influence comes into the a lagoon typically. It's aerated, and we would have a chemical such as alum or ferric is added for removing phosphorus. And then the piece that's highlighted in green there is the nitrification process. And this is really the most important part and the part we're going to spend the most time on today here. And of all of the contaminants that I talked about, ammonia is the most challenging to remove. And so it requires careful thought, especially in terms of a lagoon, because a lagoon is exposed to the cold weather and to the environment. And so that is going to be the basis of our technology review that we're talking about here. Aerated lagoons, those are pretty common and we know how those work. They're used all over Ontario. But this nitrification process and being able to nitrify or remove nitrogen with a lagoon is something that's, I don't want to say it's new because people have been doing it for several years now, and there's locations around Ontario that are doing this, but it's slightly more innovative than, say, an aerated lagoon. If we move over to the last piece, you'll notice tertiary filtration. Part of an upgrade involves having much more stringent limits. And so in order to achieve those, simply having the effluent flow out of the lagoon is not necessarily providing enough treatment. So you need to provide some level of filtration to make sure that the solids are fully removed. And then finally, disinfection. So currently there's not a disinfection process at the lagoon. You could argue that some disinfection is provided by solar radiation. However, for a continuous process, we need a way to actually continuously disinfect that effluent before it goes to the receiver. So that is kind of the outline of a partial mechanical facility here. And we're going to flip over here, next slide, and talk about the alternatives. So like I mentioned, the majority of the process stays the same, but what we're really talking about today is the nitrification option. So how do we ensure that the municipality can remove nitrogen reliably in the winter time? That's really the critical period, and also meet the new, much more stringent limits. Currently, the plant does not have an ammonia limit, and so as a part of the requirements from the MECP of the upgrade, there would be an ammonia limit, and it would be rather stringent. And so that's why this is an important piece. So RVA looked at 2 technologies that are present currently in Ontario, are working at scale and also at similar effluent limits. And because we want to make sure that what we're looking at here isn't a brand new technology that's not proven, but has been proven in our conditions and meeting similar limits. And so we were actually able to travel to 2 locations that are located in Ontario, which you'll see here. And so the two options that we are looking at here, the first is referred to as a moving bed bioreactor, an MBBR. You can see on the picture on the very left there, the hand. The essence of it is there's these plastic media. They're in an aerated tank. Bacteria grow on all the little holes and surfaces on them, and they actually do the work of removing the ammonia. And the tank is covered and it's aerated because we're looking to provide ideal conditions for these bacteria. And the idea behind the media is that we can have so much surface area that we have a giant amount of the biomass, so that even in the winter when these bacteria are operating slow, there's so many of them that they can still get the treatment that we need. So if we flip over to on the right-hand side there, alternative 2, which is referred to as a SAGR or a submerged aerated growth reactor, works in very similar manner. Instead of a concrete tank, what we have is basically a excavation in the ground that's filled with rocks. It's kind of untechnical, but they're a certain size, and it's also providing a home for bacteria. It's aerated, and it's also under the ground and has some kind of insulation, usually mulch on top of it, to again maintain some temperature. Both of these, they seek to do the exact same thing. We want to have an ideal home for nitrifying bacteria in controlled conditions. So that's what both of these look to. So flipping over to the next slide here, our evaluation. RVA and the municipality toured 2 Ontario facilities. We were able to go with North Middlesex and Aqua staff to Brights Grove near Sarnia to visit SAGR. There's an MBBR facility near Ottawa, which is a bit of a drive. RVA has offices in Ottawa, so we had staff go to that site as well and produced a report about that site visit. And we also received information from other facilities in Ontario that have these technologies through publicly available effluent reports. We prepared an evaluation matrix, and we sought to score these 2 technologies based on different parameters, such as process reliability and treatment performance, operation and maintenance requirements, construction timeline and constructability, environmental impacts, health and safety, and capital and O&M costs. So once we had that set up, we went through and we scored each one of these technologies for each one of these categories, and worked it through. And alternative 1, which is the SAGR, was selected as the preferred option. So you can see the score there. They're relatively close, but really what pushed it in the favor of SAGR was the process reliability and treatment aspect. There are several SAGR installations that have been installation for more than 5 years in Ontario in the same conditions that are meeting very low ammonia limits in the wintertime. So the estimated capital cost for alternative 1, the SAGR, was estimated at $20.3 million. And I want to point out that that is for the full build out. So the 3,466 cubic meters per day. You can contrast that with the previous mechanical treatment plant cost, which was around $40 million for approximately half of that capacity. So when you're thinking about that number. You can flip to the next page. We thought about some phasing. This is something that was brought up in the Class EA as well. When do you actually build out your capacity? It's proposed that the future ADF, or average daily flow, of 3,466 cubic meters per day would likely take many years to materialize. That's about over 5 times your flow in Park Hill right today. And so we were provided with the Middlesex County Growth Analysis Update by Watson and Associates, and we took a look at the population projection just to see if we could find a way to propose phasing this so it gets spread the capital cost over some time. That gross analysis projected a population increase of 2,700 people by 2056 for all of North Middlesex, so not just Park Hill, but the entirety of the municipality. And so we propose that you could build full capacity out in 2 phases. And so essentially you take that the maximum build out flow and divide it in half there for phase one. This has several benefits. The first is when we were looking at our kind of conceptual kind of layout, which we'll see on the next slide here, we can construct it in such a way that it makes future upgrades straightforward. We can leave sufficient room for additional pieces of equipment or conduits, things like that. If we consider what the current ADF is right now, so that's 624 cubic meters per day, and we discount any reserve capacity, which I understand that there may be some reserve capacity, but if we discount that for right now, phase one would provide you with an extra 1,100 cubic meters per day of capacity. And if we use some of the numbers from a previous report in terms of the estimates regarding people for lots and also wastewater generated per person, that capacity would translate into about an additional 785 lots or about 2,750 people based on that information.
And that's just in Park Hill alone.
Yeah. And so the estimated capital cost for phase one would be around $16 million. So it would allow the municipality to defer some of those costs. If we flip over here, you may ask, if it's half the capacity, why is it half the cost, or why it's not? During phase one, we would build out much of the infrastructure, including the process building, which would then not have to be constructed for the second. So this is the kind of the conceptual layout here. And if we start up in the top center in between the two lagoons there, where it says wastewater flow, that is the current inlet to the lagoons. Wastewater is pumped there from the Victoria Street pumping station. And so the lagoons would be set up in series, and you can kind of follow the wastewater that flows through via the blue arrows there. Both an aeration system would be added to the north and south lagoons that would keep the cells aerobic and allow them to do removal of those organic components. We would be adding phosphorus removal chemicals such as alum or ferric, allowing that phosphorus to settle out. And so that's removing that from the effluent as well. So the wastewater would flow from the north cell there over to the south cell, and then would enter into the Sager beds. And they're shown on the left-hand side, the blue rectangles there. They're shown in two phases. So 2 beds would be for the first phase, and then a matching pair for a second phase. Wastewater would travel through the beds. They'd have ammonia removed at that point. Excuse me. And then it would pass through the process building there, which would have the tertiary filters. And from that point onward, it would join back in with the existing outfall, which is down at the bottom center there for discharge to Park Hill Creek. So we can flip to the next slide here. For next stage. So there's the next steps here. If the county chooses to go forward with this partial mechanical route, is that an EA addendum will be required. As a part of the Class EA, some of these results, some of these options were actually evaluated, and so they weren't selected at that time. And so if we are going back and we're the municipalities changing their mind about that at that point, then it means that we need to do some public consultation and just essentially this report that I've given here, provide this information to the public and make an addendum to that ESR. Following that addendum, then the municipality could proceed with detailed design and then construction of that facility. So that's what I have, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Councilor Keough.
Thank you, Mayor. Austin, without getting into the real thick science of it, the nitrification process, in trying to capture that or capturing that throughout the winter months, how do you capture it and how do you dispose of it? Or is it just absorbed into the atmosphere?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Good question. So the best way to describe this is, so nitrogen, it comes into the plant usually as ammonia. And through the biological process, it's converted into nitrate. The bacteria consume it and then they produce nitrate. And so the amount of nitrogen, if I was to sum it all up, coming in and leaving the plant, and actually almost all plants in Ontario is almost the same, but it's what form it is in. If it is in the form of ammonia, specifically unionized ammonia can be quite harmful, like I said, to fish and aquatic life. Whereas nitrate doesn't have quite the same impacts in most cases. Not always so. It's transformed.
So when it's in its state, how do you handle it and what do you do with it?
So this reaction is actually occurring in the wastewater stream. So it's coming through this Sagar bed. It's interacting with the biomass, and so it's taking in its ammonia and it's putting out nitrate essentially. And so there's not really any handling of it. It just kind of goes out with the effluent.
So it's going down the Park Hill.
It's
Drain.
going down to the Park Hill Creek. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions, Councillor Irwin?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify these numbers, make sure I got them correct. Current lagoons, now that they're been cleaned out, can allow up to 370 additional homes in Park Hill.
Yes.
Phase one that you recommended tonight, if we did it in phases, would allow for another 785 homes on top of that for Park Hill.
Yes.
At a cost of $16 million in today's dollars. Okay. All right. And do we need to upgrade our current lagoons to meet new standards, or are they sufficient?
So I believe it was 2012, the federal government brought in the wastewater systems effluent regulations. You may have heard of WASER or WISER. And so one of those pieces is that plants, they wanted to bring up the threshold in Canada that everybody has what's known as secondary treatment. And so what's provided right now is not secondary treatment. It would be considered to be primary treatment. So there would be a requirement there to be able to meet the as a part of WISER, there's an unionized ammonia limit.
And for any growth beyond 370 homes that are achieved by dredging, to upgrade them. So there's no other way about it to go with any other growth in.
Okay. So if I may, Your Worship, just to clarify, if we're less than 370 homes, we don't need to upgrade our lagoons to meet new standards at this time.
Yes, but what you would have to do, because part of the design that was completed in 2020 was there was an actual ECA application submitted, and newer limits were applied. So you'd have to ask for an extension from the MECP for those newer limits if you don't plan on doing any upgrades. So you have apply. It's those new limits don't come into force until 2029 because there was an anticipation that there's been upgrades happening, but since that upgrade was paused, then an extension would have to be applied so that you can continue doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. All I wanted to add to, and it's mentioned in the report and other reports as well, but it's always recommended that at 80% capacity, you should already be planning for what the future is and what's next. So that's part of what this was. To the councillor's point, theoretically speaking, if we stopped growing or didn't need the 370 homes or whatever, we wouldn't need to do anything here. But we are at the point where we do need to start planning, which is why this has come forward.
Okay. Councillor Nerda.
Mayor, so our deadline then, Sam, is 2029 to have a new plan in place?
So through your worship to the councillor. So in front of you tonight, you'll see that the report is for information only because at this point, the project has been completed and we're sharing it with council for information. What you'll find will be coming from staff, we're hoping in September, will be a broader picture capacity update for the entire municipality, not just Park Hill. And at that point, we'll speak to more information on the what's next piece, which is what I mentioned previously. Both of our facilities are roughly at that 80% mark or even above in some cases, or will be very shortly if a lot of our development goes forward like we think we are. So we as staff feel that we're at the point where we need to be doing this work. We need to be thinking about the what's next, and we need to be looking at EA amendments or new EAs or whatever that is. So tonight, all this is for information, and that will come at a later date. To your question though, this one is a unique project because there already is an EA completed, and we would just need to amend it. So it's a little bit different in that we don't need to start a new EA from scratch. But to the point that RVA made, EAs have timelines to them. And if you don't do anything within the timelines, the EA expires. So the existing EA has an expiry timeline and the existing ECA has an expiry timeline. And if we don't do anything with the existing EA or ECA by those dates, they'll both expire and we would theoretically have to start from scratch, which is why the comment is has been made that if this is a technology that the municipality is going to move forward with or something similar, we would have to look at doing an EA amendment before that timeline in order to keep our EA active. Otherwise, we'd have to start one from scratch.
Oh, well,
Can we not continue just to dredge lagoons?
So through your worship to the councillor, we certainly could, but that would not achieve what we would need to achieve. You, by maintenance alone, you're supposed to dredge it, and Amro, you can correct me, anywhere between 5 to 10 years, and I think the ideal is roughly around 7, if I remember correctly.
It's every 5 years is the recommended. The
Dredge.
volume that we have, the last time the lagoons were dredged was about 20 years ago. And the volume and the thickness of the sludge that we were able to remove was, kind of significant. And if this is done more routinely, the cost would actually be a lot lower because the sludge is easier to handle. It's a younger age sludge, it's not like your old age sludge that's really thick at the bottom of the lagoon. It becomes easier to dig out of the bottom. But the bottom of the lagoon is the bottom of the lagoon. Like what we did with this project was we unlocked capacity because the volume was a lot smaller because you had 20 years of buildup at the bottom.
Yep.
Right. So now we're back to where we were 20 years ago. There's no more capacity beyond that, right? You can't really dredging it more and more will not unlock any additional capacity. We're at that kind of ultimate that we can get out of the lagoons as they exist right now.
Thank you.
okay. Councillor Ellison, first time I've heard from you.
I've been saving myself. I've
Okay.
three questions for these gentlemen. Yeah, you should be. You should be.
I wouldn't be. No.
I looked at your diagrams, I looked at your pictures, but the question I have for you, are you actually going to erect any structures there?
Yes.
Okay, what are we actually building?
Maybe if we could go back to that, then we can point. So if we flip to the concepts slide here, if you look at the yellow, yeah, exactly. Thank you. So if you could see the yellow rectangle there, that's titled process building. It would be relatively smallish building. It would be 10 to 15 meters by about 20 to 22 meters square. And it would contain, like an electrical room for the necessary electrical equipment. It would contain a blower room, which would have a bunch of blowers in it because we're now going to be aerating. Some chemical tanks, as well as the filters would be stored in there.
Okay.
I
have another question. What are the operational costs of a system like this? Because you talked about chemicals, you talked about the mechanics and all that. What are the operational costs, say, for a month or a year annual basis?
So we have that in our report, and I apologize. I guess we didn't put it in our presentation here.
I didn't see it. I was looking for it.
And I don't have to, if you bear with me, I have the report in my.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
So one of the things that I just want to build on the first answer is the advantage of this approach is that we're utilizing the lagoon cell, the existing infrastructure to the maximum capacity. So there's not a lot of physical infrastructure being added. Right? You're asking about how many more buildings are there. There's not. We're adding an entire aeration system to the lagoon, so converting it from a facultative lagoon to an aerated lagoon. The Sager cells, they're actually a hole in the ground is filled, but they're filled with specific media that's providing that nitrification, right? So it's not a building, but it is part of the new construction that's being added into the project, right?
So just to interrupt you there, those two rectangulars above with all the little white dots in them, that's just open space.
No, that's going to be media buried in the ground. So we're going to be it's like what you'll see eventually is just a mulch bed, right? When you're walking over it and visiting the plant, all you would see is a mulch bed.
So it's not going to freeze.
Sorry,
it won't freeze.
There's a certain process that you kind of start in about September, October each year to condition those beds to carry you through the winter. And I think one of the biggest advantages of this is the Brights Grove facility just up the road here employs this exact same technology, and it's met all the numbers in our report. We've actually shown their historical numbers and their ammonia numbers specifically, and they've met their annual targets every single year since this facility is in place. And so I think maybe advantageous to the council members here if they want to visit the Brights Grove facility to see what it is that they're buying, because I know it's going to be hard to imagine when you walk on a bed of mulch that we paid all of this for a bed of mulch. Right? It's a difficult concept to grasp. But it's to understand that all the treatment is happening kind of below the surface and in the media that we're putting below the surface.
Okay. So, all right. Do you have my answer?
Yes, I do. So in our reports, we provided O&M costs for both the SAGR as well as the MBBR cost. And so the numbers here, they're at the full belt build out, and the things we considered here, it's broken down in there by electricity, that's to run the blowers and stuff like that, chemical costs, maintenance costs in terms of replacing diffusers in the aeration grid, rebuilding blowers, filter maintenance, things like that. We talked with manufacturers to get some numbers on that. We also included a value in there for lagoon dredging costs. It's a little bit different process here, but eventually you still would need to dredge the lagoon at some point. And then we also included staff costs as well in here. And so the number that comes out here is 730,000.
730,000?
Yes.
Annually. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then, one last question I have, because I was on council when we started that initial designing of the mechanical plant, and I noticed you had design here as well. What are your costs going to be to design the system?
So without getting into too close of a number, but the budgetary number would be $500,000 to $750,000.
Okay.
For a design of the planning.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Counselor Daigle.
Thank you. And through the SAGR beds, do they have a life on them?
A theoretical life, because none have been in the ground long enough to reach that theoretical end of life. So the manufacturer, would say about 20 to 25 years you need to replace the media, but there haven't been any installations that have reached that 20-year timeline yet to see what would happen. But again, the example that we have with Bryce Grove is consistently, ever since it was put in 2017, I believe, no impact to performance year in, year out since then.
And it's important to point out that the media is rocks. Is rocks in there, yeah.
And one other question, the hydro, because we're putting blowers in, do we have adequate power in that area, or is that something we're gonna have to bring to the area when this goes in?
If is it Hydro One in this area, or is it so Hydro One? We would have to talk to Hydro One. There would definitely need to be a new transformer on site. There's definitely going to be some electrical upgrades that are needed as part of this, but we have not looked at that as part of the study as to all the details required.
So no matter what we'd put in there, we're probably going to have to bring hydro in there, no matter what system we go in.
Yeah.
Or what we go for. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know whether Felicia can bring that picture back up again of the thing, but yeah, that would do. Just quick, and maybe this is directed. So where does our wastewater dump into? Does it dump into the first lagoon now, or does it go up and around? This shows the picture at the very top, wastewater flow going into the second northerly lagoon.
So there's
Does it empty in there now?
kind of. So there's a chamber right there, and staff can direct it to either the north or south lagoon. And so right now it's a splitter box, and actually I think it evenly flows into both.
So actually, there's no infrastructure on us as it comes across the highway there, coming that way. It does go that way anyway. We're not changing anything up there.
Yeah,
We
so
are-
the force main would
Is
remain.
still in that area. Okay. no.
Yes, the force
That's
main
the
runs
question
that
I
way.
have. Thank you.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you for your time and for the information. We have been looking for options. We have been, we've talked about, is there really only one option? And appreciate the information very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And I need a motion. Need a motion to take it for information? Counselor, Counselor Daigle, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll do, I think, before we take a break, we'll ask Aqua to do their report. They've been sitting here for a while. If that's all right with everyone? Okay. No, we're going to ask Aqua to come and do their second quarter report to let them get away from here.
Want to get you through, Rob?
Yep.
We want to get you through.
Yep.
Probably did, no, just a
I,
report.
just before you start, Rob, what do you think? Like, Rod, what do you think? Like, just
Good.
just to look at options.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, municipal staff for the opportunity to present to you second quarter operational reports. And I'd like to start off with the North Middlesex distribution system, if I may. Oh, I can start with that one. If it's up, I'll start with that one. So that's our LC Craig and Park Hill wastewater systems. And our operational highlights for the second quarter will include a faulty circuit board that was replaced on a dissolved oxygen control panel, and calibration of both dissolved oxygen sensors was performed at the LC Craig plant. A final effluent auto sampler was replaced as well at the plant. Commissioning and training for operators was conducted by Can-Am Instruments. Final effluent was discharged from both the north and the south cells this spring. And we have a total volume of there. And when we're talking about cost, chemical costs, because again, there's no power at this facility. The effluent gets there, the raw sewage that gets there is pumped from Victoria Street, and it's all mechanical. So you're just opening up valves. The true cost that comes through is the chemical. So historically, we've been budgeting $150,000 a year. And now that we've had our cells sludged or desludged, and 2024 and 2025, this spring, our cost was about, I have it here, it's $56,000. Historically, when we have our spring discharge, it's been close to $70,000. So I'm going to be estimating anywhere from a $13,000 to $15,000 saving just on chemical costs for the spring. I want to get another fall discharge in just to start getting a full year of what that's going to look like. We've been fortunate enough that we haven't had some wet summers where we can just discharge one cell out of the two. So maybe we could start seeing some savings there, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 just on chemical costs. So that's desludging really did help. We also did add some valves there to lower our level when we do discharge in our seasons, just to gain that extra capacity for wet weather events. Capital projects, LC Craig Energy Optimization Project. I know we've been talking about this one, so I just wanted to integrate that our Aqua partners will be presenting a check to the municipality by the end of the month because of this work. And then once they have that issued to the municipality, we're hoping to have a report to you about this project. And they can describe the project and what was done, what wasn't done, and all those type of things. So check right here, as far as I'm being told, or maybe I should say the total cost of this project, as a reminder, was $131,095. The check that you're going to be getting back is $24,041.55 with a payback of 3.90 years on energy costs right now. And I want to add on that doesn't include cost savings from the wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. So I don't know how to equate that into a dollar figure yet. I'll let maybe our Aqua partners when that time comes. But you're not going to be replacing bearings as much, motors, belts and filters and things like that. So that's report will be coming hopefully this fall. And William Street Sewage Pumping Station upgrade with their plan upgrade. We've been in meetings. We're still, working with approvals and having our meetings, but nothing really to highlight as of yet. But we'll keep you posted as we go through the fall. Any questions on the wastewater system?
Questions? No, go forward.
Okay, water system operational highlights for the second quarter. To date, we have performed 422 locates. It's a little bit lower than what we used to be seeing. We used to see around 1,000 to 1,100 is what I'm projecting. So we're a little bit lower. We'll see what happens for the next half of the year. We have performed 6 water main leak repairs, 6 water service leak repairs, 3 blow-off leak repairs, and 9 service box and valve box repairs, and witnessed 7 new water service connections. So this is an interesting number because again, it's new lots that are infills that people are purchasing and building on. So that's an interesting number, and we'll keep an eye on that one. Staff maintain distribution pressure during the Lake Huron primary water treatment plant shutdowns. We have a total of 7 shutdowns during the first and second quarter. We just had one yesterday with success. As far as I know, no complaints, no calls, things like that. So, and it was a big one as well. Aramos Engineering and our local electrician continued to troubleshoot pump duty alternation and the loss of programming that occurred during the generator testing and power failures at the West Williams booster station. A lot of work was into this for the last 6 months. I'm happy to report that we finally got this station back operating the way that it should. We ended up replacing a PLC card. That's a program logic controller, which basically says how this station operates 24 hours a day, a UPS, utility power source, which is a big battery, so that when we do have these power blips, that station can keep on running. And then we also ended up replacing a transformer. And that transformer was causing a higher voltage to our instruments and causing us issues. So we have that replaced, a lot more programming, a lot more testing when involved. But so far as of June, that station is back running as it should. A 10-inch pressure reducing valve was replaced at the Elgin Field Road interconnect chamber. This is also, this interconnect chamber is close to Vanek Road. So what failed is that it wasn't taking the Lake Huron primary treatment plant trunk main pressure and reducing it down so that we weren't putting high pressure on our distribution system in Carlisle and New Ontario Road. So that was replaced. As far as capital projects in the second quarter, Mount Carmel Reservoir, construction is full on. They've got rebar in. I think I was told that concrete is being poured tomorrow. So bypassing of that reservoir to taking it offline is right now is scheduled to be the last week of August. Any questions regarding the water system?
Any questions? Councillor Irwin?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just back to the Carlisle situation. So they've had a number of issues recently with water pressure. Does this help address those?
Yeah, from what the information that I've been getting back from the public, I know that we've had some pressure reducing valve issue that was causing some pressure issues. And I think it was more of a communication with residents. And I have those residents' phone numbers, and I've been in contact with them, and we seem to have a better flow of transparency and information in the work that's being done.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the motions in front of you again. Councillor Daigle? Councillor Keel, all in favor? Carried. And that is, we're going to take a break. I need a motion to adjourn. For Councillor Nerda, always got Councillor Keel, all in favor? Carried. We'll do as short as possible. All right, we are back in open session once again. Our next item of business is 6.4, report from Director of Infrastructure and Operations, or DIO 51/2026, Planning Services Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to you and all the members of council. Before you this evening is report DIO 51 of 2026 that seeks council's authorization to enter into an updated planning services agreement with the County of Middlesex. The County of Middlesex completed a modernization update to their agreement that has governed the delivery of the planning services since 2016. And the updated agreement maintains the existing service delivery and funding model that we have, but provides greater clarity around services, responsibilities, expectations, and current legislative requirements. So key highlights in my report, you'll note that the municipality has participated in the county's planning service model since 2016, receiving professional planning advice, application processing, and related planning services through the county. The county circulated a draft agreement in March of 2026, which was reviewed by staff, not just with North Middlesex, but all staff within the county, with comments provided back to the county, with an updated agreement provided based on the comments that were provided at that time. The updated agreement does not fundamentally change anything to do with the way that we receive planning services, and instead it only modernizes the existing arrangement that we have. So the important part to note there is this agreement means no changes to the services we get. The services that we get as they stand will continue on as they are, and that will not change. And the agreement in and of itself has an initial term of 5 years with 2 automatic 5-year renewal terms unless terminated with 6 months written notice. So as far as financial goes, again, I'll reiterate that there's no change in financial impact based on entering into this updated planning agreement. The planning services that we receive through the county now will continue on as they are, and that has been confirmed as not going to be changing. The only thing that would change, theoretically speaking, which has been confirmed in myself speaking with the county, is if the municipality were to want to receive planning services well above and beyond what we're already getting into now, that would obviously be a deviation from the services that we get now in the agreement that we have. But again, the likelihood of that, it hasn't really happened to date, and it's not really expected to happen going forward. So again, there'll be no financial changes from entering into the agreement with the county here. So the recommendations before council this evening are that council receive report DIO 51 of 2026 regarding planning services agreement County of Middlesex, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the planning services agreement between the corporation of the County of Middlesex and the corporation of the municipality of North Middlesex substantially in the form attached to this report. And I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has any. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Nerda, then Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sam, what are the fees for non-core services?
So through your worship to the council, that's a good question. So the way that was phrased was if the municipality, as an example, was interested in doing something that was well above and beyond outside of the scope of the planning services that we receive, that we would be able to work with the county at that time to sort of scope what we wanted, and they would be able to provide us a fee at that time. So there's no set fees per se. It'd be more depending on what we wanted is what the county would be able to price out at that time, and then that's what we would either be able to say yes or no to.
So we're at the mercy of the county to set the fees?
Through your worship to the council. So that would be only if we were interested in receiving something well above and beyond what we already receive. Again, the official plan is a good example. That's a service that we receive that we don't pay extra for. All the work with Ashley, that's included with the work that we get. So the non-core services that you would expect would be well above and beyond anything like that, and it would have to be scoped at that time.
Thank you, Sam.
Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that was my question. I was looking at the second last paragraph on page 3, trying to understand if official plan reviews, zoning bylaw reviews, etc., were non-core. And I think that answered my question. So the official, it said here, I couldn't grasp the sentence, but they are core?
So through your worship to the council, that's correct. So what I've been communicated to from the county is the services that we're already receiving, we will continue to receive, and it will not change anything in the way of finances. That includes the official plan, zoning bylaw update, things of that matter.
Okay, you got a follow-up?
Just a follow-up. Can you then explain what is the modernization aspect you mentioned that this is they're modernizing the agreement. What specifically is that?
So through your worship to the councillor, so my understanding based on my conversations with the county were that a lot of it had to do with A, the agreement being outdated, and B, a lot of stuff surrounding health and safety was very outdated. So that was a lot of what the update was. But again, a lot of the modernization was just bringing the agreement to current because it is at this point 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. So are we going to be doing this now every 5 years? Right.
So through your worship to the councillor, that would be correct, though again, it does have renewal terms within it.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions. We have a recommendation. Moved by Councillor Nerda, seconded by Councillor Daigle. In favor? Carried. And our next report is on procurement services. Sam, that's you again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to you and the members of council. Before you this evening is report DIO 52 of 2026. That is a procurement services agreement for the County of Middlesex. So this report seeks council's authorization to enter into a procurement services agreement with the County of Middlesex, and the agreement establishes a formal framework for the county to provide procurement-related services to North Middlesex, and formalizes the collaborative approach between North Middlesex and the county. It provides clarity regarding roles, responsibilities, etc. Again, you'll note in my report that entering into this agreement means no financial changes. It's not a service that we'll have to start paying extra for. It's a service that we'll continue to receive as we already are. It just better separates in terms of responsibility of what North Middlesex has versus the county, who holds what liability and things of that nature. And then similarly to the planning agreement, it does have terms of a 5-year with renewal, and sort of speaks to what service levels we would receive, which again, will continue to be exactly what we receive now, just formalized through an agreement. So overall, again, it would not mean any change to the services that we receive to date, only to formalize it through an agreement with the county. So the recommendations for council on this one are that council receive report DIO 52 of 2026 regarding procurement services agreement, County of Middlesex, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the procurement services agreement between the corporation of the County of Middlesex and the corporation of the municipality of North Middlesex, substantially in the form attached to this report. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Questions? Question? Councillor Irwin.
2 questions, Your Worship. Number 1, if we're entering into a formal agreement, does this now mean that the county shares liability, including financial liability, in case there is an issue?
So through your worship to the councillors, so if you'll note it, well, both in my report and the agreement, actually, it does lay out in terms of liability, who is liable for what. So in effect, obviously the municipality will have liability, but so will the county, and that is spelled out in the agreement that's set forth.
Secondly, does this limit our ability to engage in procurement on our own without any county input?
Through your worship to the councillor, no, that is not the case.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Keogh. All in favor? Carried. Sam, 6.6, and that is you on development charges update.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and to you and the members of council. Before you this evening is report DIO 60 of 2026 that proposes a minor update and amendment to our 2022 development charges study. And the reason that this is being brought forward is, as council is aware, we've been fortunate enough to receive significant grant funding over the past year and a half here for 2 big projects that were part of the DC study, one being the Mount Carmel Reservoir and one being the William Street wastewater pumping station project. And you'll note in my report that because this proposal is proposing to reduce the DCs, albeit slightly, we don't have to go through the formal full-blown DC process, which is why it's being put forth only as a minor amendment at this stage. So what we did, and we worked with Watson on this one, is we did a minor update to our DC study, which was last done in 2022. And all we did was apply the grant funding that we received through both the province and the federal government to be recognized in the calculations we had in our DC. So effectively, those dollars that we were saying we needed to collect for those projects through DCs, we offset that by saying we don't need to collect that money anymore for those projects because we are now getting it through the province and the federal government through the funding that we are receiving. Again, you'll note in my report that because it's only a minor amendment and it decreases the payable development charges, we're able to proceed with this the way we are, which follows what they call a minor amendment process, which is permitted under the Development Charges Act. And we don't need to go through a full development charges background study at this time to do this update. You'll notice in my report again as well that you're supposed to do a full development charge study update every 5 years roughly. So we did ours last in 2022, which means we would theoretically be due for one next year in 2027. So doing this amendment would mean that we would slightly reduce our DCs by roughly 5% to recognize that funding. And then again, subject to future council and budget approval, we would do the full-blown DC study again in 2027 following that 5-year timeline. So the recommendations before council this evening on this report are that council receives report DIO 60 of 2026 regarding the 2026 development charges update study and amending development charges bylaw for information, and that council approve the recommendations contained within the development charges update study, including approval of the July 31st, 2026 update study, the updated capital projects and the amending development charge bylaw, and that council adopt the amending development charges bylaw substantially in the form attached as Appendix B to the development charges update study, and that the clerk be directed to undertake the required notice requirements under the Development Charges Act 1997. So I'm happy to answer any questions if I can this evening, but if there are questions that I cannot that might rely on Watson, I'm happy to reach out, to Watson after this and report back. Thanks.
Questions? Question? Councillor Irwin.
Yes, Your Worship, just one question. So we're not anticipating any major projects that require development charge funds to support over the next 5 years?
So through your worship of the councillor, we certainly would, but the funds that were allocated for these two projects in specific that we're offsetting, we won't need to collect anymore because it's being paid for through the grants.
Any other questions? We have the recommendation on the screen for you to see again. Move by flippant there. I mean, Councillor Daigle. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Nerda. In favor? Carried. Our next one is the report for Drainage Superintendent, request for major improvement of the Hutchison-Eagleson Drain F and G. Kristen.
Mayor and members of council, report DIO 59 of 2026 as presented is for a request for drain major improvement for the Hutchinson-Eagleson Drain F and G. These branches serve 33 agricultural properties and 5 non-agricultural properties. The Hutchinson-Eagleson branches F and G are tile drains that are under an engineer's report from 1961. These branches outlet into the Hutchinson-Eagleson Drain A and flow into the Canada Company Drain North. This petition was received July 13th, 2026 from landowners on concession 26, part lot 5 and lot 6. Their request was submitted to improve these branches due to the poor condition and the large amount of tile repairs that have been required through maintenance over the past few years. This reflects the age and life cycle of this drainage system. Therefore, the proposed motion and staff recommendation is that council receives report DIO 59 of 2026 regarding notice for request for drain major improvement for the Hutchinson-Eagleson Drain F and G according to section 78 1.1 of the Drainage Act for information, and that council receives the notice for a request for drain major improvement for the Hutchinson-Eagleson Drain F and G according to section 78 1 of the Drainage Act, and that they appoint Dobbin Engineering as Dobbin Engineering Incorporated as the engineer to this project.
Questions for Kristen on this? No questions? We have a recommendation in front of us, moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Keogh. All in favor? Carried. And once again, Kristen, it's yours. That's the request for the drain abandonment.
Mayor and members of council report DIO 61 of 2026 regarding the request for a municipal drain abandonment for the top end of the Gillies branch of the Cameron Gillies drain. Staff received a request to abandon the top portion of the Gillies branch of the Cameron Gillies drain on July 30th, 2026. The top portion of the Gillies branch has been enclosed privately with concrete tile. Installed on concession 18 lot 8 and 9. The infected landowners requesting this abandonment have gathered the majority of the signatures required to formally request an abandonment. A drain may be abandoned in 3 ways, which is outlined in this report. So it is staff recommendation that we proceed with option 1. Therefore, the proposed motion and staff recommendation is that council receives Report DIO 61 of 2026 regarding the request for municipal drain abandonment for information, and that council accepts the report and directs staff to proceed with option 1 of the process of the drain abandonment, and that council accepts the abandonment for the top end of the Gillies branch of the Cameron Gillies drain from station 1 plus 975 to station 2.75 on the report dated July 31st, 1989, under bylaw 14 of 1989.
Thank you. Questions for Kristen on this? Councillor Knellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp. Kristen, if they choose and they all agree to abandon this drain now, can they come back 5 or 6 years later and request a municipal drain?
I believe that once it's abandoned, it's then considered a private drain.
I'm sorry, what?
I believe once it's abandoned, it's then considered private, and
Okay.
the landowner on that drain is now responsible for all repairs.
But a subsequent landowner can't come back and say, oh, I need a municipal drain.
I don't believe, unless it was to request an improvement to the Cameron Gillies drain.
Okay.
But that top end of that branch is now abandoned and it is private.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Next one, Faisal and Mandy, and that is for the water loss report. Oh, sorry, Rod, I forgot you on this one. Appreciate you staying for it. Yep. Go ahead. Who's going to start?
I'm going to start. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. To the Mayor and Member of Council, before you this evening is report DIO 57, 2026 regarding the water loss update for information. This report provides Council with an update on non-revenue water, which is a water that is purchased and distributed through the municipal system, but does not generate revenue due to leaks, meter inaccuracies, firefighting activities, fire hydrant flushing, and other authorized uses. North Middlesex maintain approximately 470 plus kilometers of water main infrastructure, servicing a geographic area of roughly 60,000 hectares.
For the first quarter of 2026, the results in Q1, the municipality purchased approximately 329,515 cubic meters of water and billed out 197,104 cubic meters to customers. This resulted in a non-revenue water rate of 40.18%, or approximately 332,401 cubic meters of water that was not accounted for through our billing. In the second quarter of 2026 in Q2, water purchases increased to approximately 389,638 cubic meters of water, while billed consumption increased to 251,220 cubic meters of water. The non-revenue water rate improved to 35.06, representing approximately 136,588 cubic meters of water of unbilled and unaccounted for water. While the volume of water purchased increased in Q2, the non-revenue water percentage improved by just over 5%, from 40.18% to 35.06%. This is a positive improvement, and although there is still significant required. 2026 year-to-date picture, for the first 2 quarters, approximately 719,153 cubic meters of water was purchased, and 448,324 cubic meters was billed. Overall, the municipality's average non-revenue water for the first half of 2026 is at approximately 37.2%.
Water main breaks, service leaks, aging infrastructure, and other meter inaccuracies continue to contribute to water loss within the distribution system. During the first half of 2026, Aqua completed 24 water main and water service repairs, while the municipality continue investing in infrastructure renewal, preventive maintenance, and water meter replacement to improve the system performance and reduce water loss. The municipality replaced approximately 200 faulty meters in 2024, 235 meters in 2025, and plans to replace approximately 250 additional meters in 2026, helping improve the billing accuracy and reduce water loss throughout the distribution system.
Looking at historical data, non-revenue water has been a persistent issue for the municipality. In 2016, the non-revenue water was approximately 52%, meaning more than half of the water purchase was not being captured through customer billing. There was a significant improvement in 2017 when the non-revenue water dropped to 42%, although it increased again to 45% in 2018. The next reliable comparison available in 2025 when the non-revenue water was approximately 41.2%. The 2026 results are encouraging. Q1 non-revenue water was at 40.18% and Q2 improved further to 35.6% or 06%. This means that completed with a very valuable historical data, Q2 2026 represents the lowest recorded non-revenue water percentage. The improvement from 41.2 in 2025 to 35.06 in Q2 of 2026 represents a reduction of approximately 6.1% from last year's to this year. There is a gap in the historical record for 2019 to 2024. The data from the previous financial system is no longer available, while the data from the new system has been affected by the system and procedural issues. These issues continue to be addressed to ensure the reporting information is accurate and reliable.
While there is not a provincially mandated non-revenue water target, industry's best practice generally identify non-revenue water levels of 10 to 12% as an achievable long-term objective. Many Ontario municipalities operate within the range of 15 to 25, while the system with aging infrastructure and known leakage challenges often experience non-revenue water levels between 25 to 35%. Staff have identified the main reasons of the water loss, allowing the efforts to be focused on the location that need the most attention.
The financial impact of the non-revenue water remains significant, with estimated losses of $168,149 in Q1 and $173,466 in Q2 for 2026. By comparison, a 12% industry benchmark would equate to losses of approximately $20,000 per quarter. It can, however, be noted that municipalities' data and the tracking methods and the associated new non-revenue percentage continue to show positive progression. The recommendation is that Council receives report DI 57 of 2026 regarding the water loss update for information, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mandy. Thanks, Faisal. Good report. Thank you. Rod, is there anything you want to add before I turn it over to the council on this? Okay, yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Questions? Councilor Nerda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So going from 40 to 35%, clearly we're doing something right there. How long is it going to take to get down to industry standards?
I can, if you want, Basil.
Everybody's jumping all over that.
So,
who wants?
Through your worship. So, what I've seen so far is, we need to continue with our meter replacement program. That's number one. So, a lot of our meters are at their end of life. So they're over the 25-year age bracket. So if we can continue to do the 250, we're going to be able to get ourselves back into the position where all our meters are up to date. Yeah. And then with us continuing on with our leak detection practices that we've been doing in-house. So what does that mean? If I can do 250 a year, maybe within a 5-year cycle, we can be back progressively moving this number down lower and lower and lower because we'll have accurate data with our meter replacement program. And then we're also continuing to do our distribution work that we do.
Okay. Councillor Knellison.
Thank you. And again, anyone can choose to answer, whoever wishes to answer. I did ask Sam the other day about this. I know that some time ago we had discussed installing some water meters in the line throughout our municipality internally, not boundary, but internally, to assist in detecting water leaks in our rural communities. Have we done that? And if so, what has that revealed?
Through your worship, yes. I would, we're going to call them teleloggers are installed on all boundary meters. And what that does is that it records the flow rate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what we do is that we review all the boundary meters, minimum nighttime flows once a week. So why do we do that? If I'm trying to remember it was a couple of years ago, roughly around on Petty Street, we had a significant water main break. And the old way we used to do it was reviewing the invoicing. Well, we get the invoicing about a month and a half after the fact. So we investigated, we got quotes, we got this equipment, and it's installed on all these meters so that if we see an increase in minimum nighttime flows, it actually tells us to go in what direction that we want to go, whether it's East Williams, whether it's LC Craig, wherever.
Okay.
So then we go out and we practice our leak detection practices, possibly some district metering areas to go and try to pinpoint this leak.
That's all well and good, but if there was a leak, say, the Great Canadian Hideaway had a leak under the reservoir, I believe. Sorry. And that leaked for quite some time because my understanding was that their water bill was something like $60,000 for that block of time. How did that ever get detected, or was that just by the billing method that was detected?
Through your worship. So we do actually have a meter at the Park Hill Reservoir that's dedicated for the Great Canadian Hideaway campground. So again, we are in there 3 days a week doing our rounds, monitoring, doing our chlorine testing. So as an operator that we are, we contact the municipality, we let them know, we exchange phone numbers, we reach out to that private citizen, we let them know that we suspect that they have a leak on their private system. But again, it's their responsibility to get that leak repaired. If they choose not to do so, they're paying that water bill no matter what. So that water is being captured, it is being documented, and it is being invoiced to those private people.
Thank you, Rod.
Other questions? No other questions? Once again, thank you. It's a good report. We'd all like to see it at 12%, but in reality, as you say, we're not the only ones losing water, but we do bring it out in the name of transparency to what's going on, and we're going in the right direction. Councillor Irwin.
Move to receive the report, Your Worship.
Seconder. Councillor Nerga. All in favor? Carry. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Faisal, the next one is yours as well, and that is on the curb and sidewalk program.
Thank you, Your Worship. To the Mayor and Member of Council, before you this evening is report the IO 56/2026 regarding the 2026 curb and sidewalk replacement program contract award for information. Following the May 2026 sidewalk inspection, staff identified locations requiring replacement due to deterioration, trip hazards, accessibility deficiencies. The work includes sidewalk panel replacement and approximately 30 meters of curb replacement. The tender was issued with the fixed budget of 120,000, and the proponent were asked to maximize the amount of compliant work completed within that budget. Following the evaluation process, 2430737 Ontario Inc. was identified as the preferred proponent. Their bid of 108,573.79 provided the best overall value to the municipality, including the replacement or repair of over 300 sidewalk panels and approximately 30 meters of the curb, while remaining within the approved budget. Reference checks with the County of Middlesex confirm their experience and ability to successfully deliver similar projects. The recommended contract award of 108,573.79 is within approved contract budget of 120,000, leaving the funding available to support additional in-house curb and sidewalk repairs throughout the year. Recommendation in front of council this evening are as follows: that council receives report DIO 56 of 2026 regarding the 2026 curb and sidewalk replacement program contract award for information, and that council awards the tender contract AM 2026-07 for 2026 curb and sidewalk program to 2430737 Ontario Inc. in the amount of 108,573.79, including HST. Happy to answer questions if anyone has any.
Thanks, Faisal. Questions for Faisal on this? Councillor Irwin.
Just one, your worship, and through you, could we have a diagram showing which sidewalks and curbs we placed in our respective communities?
Yeah, through your worship to the council, that's something we can certainly provide. We can provide the list of sidewalk locations and curb that we're doing this year.
And this year we'll look after most of the problems that we've had, correct?
Yeah, to your worship, that is correct. This year we'll capture all of the known deficiencies that we have from a sidewalk perspective.
Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow councilor kind of answered or asked that question I had, but I'm just wondering if without just remembering the budget, was this any part of the sidewalk and the ball diamonds there? And maybe throw that at Brandon.
I would pass that question back to Sam because I do not believe so.
So through your worship to the deputy mayor, that's correct. The scope of work that we have to date is only for existing sidewalk that we have to do, nothing new.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a recommendation on the screen. Moved by Councillor Nerda, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Faisal. 6.11, and that is Ralph. That is on the 25 audited documents.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I will remind council that we have been working diligently to try and get caught up on our financial reporting. Earlier in the year, you received the 2023 financial statements, which allowed us to actually submit the financial information report that's due to the province. They were nice enough to, based on receipt of the report, release the balance of the 2024 funding to the tune of $403,000. So it's worth getting these reports done. Last council meeting, I had this exact same report for you regarding the 2024 documents. And now we are presenting the 2025 documents so that we can springboard straight from finishing the 24 audit over the next couple of weeks into starting the 25 audit, with the hope that before this council term ends, you will have received both the 24 and 25 audited statements, and we will submit those FIRs, which would then in turn release the 25 and the 26 OMP funds that we are due. So the motion in front of you is basically to receive the report for information and to direct the applicable signing authorities to endorse all the documents associated with the 2025 audit.
Questions? No questions? Moved by Councillor Keogh and Councillor Daigle. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Ralph. Scott, where'd you go? There you are. On the replacement of the self-contained breathing apparatus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, members of council, before you tonight is a recommendation to replace the SCBA's or self-contained breathing apparatus for the North Middlesex Fire Department. Rigorous field test, wear test evaluation was completed with 2 manufacturers, both very good products. The MSA won out due to a few factors. The SCBA is one of the most crucial pieces of safety equipment for firefighters, as it protects against carcinogens and other cancer-causing agents and the respiratory health of firefighters. I'm sure there's more, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. And you've seen his report. Any questions for the chief? You'll see in his recommendation that there's a little bit of money left and he is asking for it to be put forward for tanks. You're moving the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Canelson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Brandon, community service, the mobile food truck.
So Mayor Ott, members of council, the report you have in front of you is a report on mobile food trucks for the municipality of North Middlesex. In the past, we have not permitted food trucks in the municipality outside of special events. We have had interest from various individuals looking to start food trucks. I know some council members in the past have asked about them. So staff felt it was an appropriate time to look at a licensing model for food trucks to operate in the municipality. When going through this process, we evaluated several different things, including fire prevention of food trucks, insurance, setbacks, and various other things outlined in the report and the bylaw. We also issued a survey to residents, which we had over 400 responses and about a 95% rate of we want food trucks in this community. In saying that, we did have a local opposition from, I don't mind saying it because they authorized me to, was the Crown and Fox. They are opposed to this bylaw as they felt that with the investment they made in Elsa Craig and food trucks being a potential to hurting their business, potentially costing members of the community their jobs from that establishment. So I did want to verbalize that concern, as that did come through both email and a phone call. When we were evaluating, we did look at what appropriate setback would be, what type of zones we want to permit these in. So they're listed there in the report. One of the zones is C1, which is our downtown commercial core. That would be one that obviously the individual would be opposed to. The other thing I did want to point out is that it will be a $500 fee annually. So regardless of when you come in, it will be $500 except year one. Year one, we anticipate by the time the licensing framework is complete, the vendors would maybe have a month, which would be mid-September to mid-October before the season really turns on them. So we didn't feel $500 was appropriate at the start. In saying that, moving forward, if someone was to apply, say in August, they would be hit with the $500 fee next year. The timelines that we would permit food trucks to run kind of are in line with our overnight parking bylaw. So during the season where there's no overnight parking, we also are not permitting food trucks. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. The benefit to this is strong food trucks may bring people into the community. We do have a couple of greenhouses outside of the community, which I've seen personally as places where food trucks are successful. There's various greenhouses throughout southwestern Ontario that have food trucks there that help support them. This would allow ag businesses to have food trucks on site and drive tourism that way. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thanks, Brandon. Questions? Where do we start? Councillor Irwin, I'll just come around. Councillor Irwin?
Just one, worship, through you. On page 4, the last paragraph in discussion where you've listed the districts, how difficult would it be to strike out central commercial and leave the others for permitted use?
So through the mayor to the councillor, it's pretty easy to do that. Before doing that, I would like to ensure that we know which businesses are C1 versus C2. So if you guys do want a zoning map to look at that, I can bring this back at another time and show that. We do have some funky zone specific sites throughout our corridors. So I would want to make sure that if we are striking out one and there happens to be a C2 somewhere in the middle, that there was no unintended consequence there. So.
Okay. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. Personally, I think it's about time that we did this. I think it's well overdue. I'm not opposed as my fellow councillor here, because I think a food truck is a different eating experience than it is internally in a restaurant or a family restaurant. I think it's a totally different experience. So I'm not opposed to where they're located at all. My question for you though is, have you touched base with, say, the Asaba Bayfield to see whether or not they can be put at the lookout?
So through the mayor to the councillor, we've had a Sauble Bayfield in the past ask about a food truck being permitted there. We said at that time the zoning didn't permit it. They are included as the Parks and Recreation zone. That's what applies to them. So by that, I will inform ABCA if there is any food truck looking for the scenic lookout, they are more than welcome to go through our licensing for that area.
The other thing I wanted to make a comment on, do you anticipate this truck is going to constantly be on the move, or is it going to sit in one stationary place?
So through the mayor to the councillor, you need property owner permission. They're not allowed to enter our right of way, so they will not be on the roads. And when you submit your license, you need to submit your site where you're going to be with sign off. So we would approve that site. And if you wanted to go through a second site, you would either need to apply for both sites with that license or submit a second license if it was a later time.
So it's not $500 per site?
No, that is not the way I look at it, but if it was 2 applications, it would be.
Okay, but we don't want to make it too difficult for these people to be successful, do we?
No, we certainly do not.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor? No, Councilor Nerda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brandon, how did we come up with the $500 licensing fee and where is this money? What does this money go to?
So through the mayor to the councillor, the licensing fee was essentially a temporary use on a property. I believe it's $1,500 for up to 3 years. So if somebody wanted to permanently put a food truck in now, they could go through temp use. So essentially we took the temp use, cut it in 3 for the 3 years, which works out to 500. It does show some financial commitment to doing this because, as you can appreciate, bricks and mortar do pay commercial taxes. This fee would then go towards staff time to go through the licensing documents, bylaws time to go out and check on the sites, make sure that they're following compliance, and then any complaints going towards the food truck, following up with them, those style of things.
And do we have a sense of how many food trucks are interested in getting the license? Is it 1 or is it 15?
So currently, without divulging too much personal details, there are 3 individuals in North Middlesex who have expressed interest in going to a food truck. Whether they want to go through the process once seeing it laid out, I can say that our neighboring municipality, Middlesex Center, put a bylaw in place. Their fee was $1,000 for it, and they haven't had one in 5 years apply. So if we have those dialogues and those discussions are occurring and we're not seeing anything and we know why, then we'll have to look at the bylaw at that time and bring it back for adjustment.
Thank you, Brandon.
Councilor Keel? No. Councilor Daigle, you had your hand up, I believe? No? Oh, I'm seeing things now. Sorry, you were yawning. I have to say, before I come back to you, I have to say, I agree with Councilor Irwin on the fact that I don't want to interfere with existing businesses. I do have some concerns about people who pay. I know we don't always agree on it, but I do have concerns about people who are paying taxes and bricks and mortar and all those other things. And so I think before I would agree to this, I'd want to make sure they're not in anywhere at our downtowns. And so a distance thing is one I'd like to see. The amount of cost seems low to me. I have to say $500 does seem low to me in comparison. But there's a couple of things in there I'd like to see before I could support it. I'm not saying in the long run I wouldn't be, but here tonight I wouldn't be. Councilor Daigle and then Councilor Hill.
I'd like to see a further report come forward showing us what our food establishments pay in commercial taxes versus what we're getting for this.
I would make a comment I would add before I come to Councilor Keto is I would hate to see one of our restaurants lose 10% of their business that it costs a couple of jobs. I'm just throwing, I would hate to be, I want to just make sure we're doing this right. Councilor Keogh. No.
Thank you, Mayor. Brandon, is there a special events permit just for a one-time only?
So through the mayor to the councillor, we do have that. We do have a special events permit that people can apply for. Oftentimes, if they're using our facility and they're renting it for a wedding or something like that, and they say they have a food truck, we send them that, and then they'll send back. Essentially, what we're looking for is that the food truck's insured and has an MLHU inspection. Yeah. Those are our 2 big ones for special events, but yes.
Yeah, not trying to stop special events. That's for sure. Councilor Daigle, do you have follow up?
Well, the problem I see is finding an empty commercial lot, the person says, sure, use it. It becomes a restaurant in town.
Yeah, and that's why I think, to Councillor Irwin's point, I do agree with that point that removing it from certain areas. Councillor Irwin, you had a,
Well, Your worship, you stated my comment. Thank you.
gee, that's not often happening. Is there any other comments on this? And we need direction. Councillor Canals.
I'd just like to make a comment that I don't know how many of you have traveled to the end of Michigan Street under the bridge, and sorry, I'm think our treasurer may have done that. And there's 3 or 4 food trucks there. Don't seem to have an impact in any of the surrounding restaurants, mind you, because these people are there for a different reason.
Right.
They're not there for steak and potatoes and soup. They're there for fries and a hot dog. It's different.
But our pubs serve pub grub, and not a knock on anyone. That's what they serve, and the chip wagons serve some of the same stuff. That would be my one. So we need direction, we need a motion, we need whatever. If we're going to accept the recommendation, fine. If there's another motion, we need to know.
I'd like to amend the motion if I could, to say that I'd like to see a further report on the commercial taxes from our restaurants versus what we're going to receive here annually.
Okay. Okay, is there a seconder for that?
If I could also make a friendly amendment to see the implications on C1 and C2 exclusion from the bylaw. As a friendly amendment, then
I would like to see-
second that.
I would like to see that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one motion, correct? Okay. Great.
You have 2 major restaurants operating. What they pay in commercial tax. See what is compared to what we're trying to get a license. That's it? No, I prefer more of a method to.
C1 and 2 out.
To remove C1 and 2. That was the amendment.
I understand that part of it, but I don't understand the rationale for including that, because if you're going to have them excluded, then what do you need to know the tax rate for?
If they're going to be included, then if I would like that analysis before you make a decision. If they're not, like, if we're not taking them out, I would like to see the analysis before.
But you made a motion to exclude them, did you not?
I would like to see them excluded. Yes.
C1 and C2 excluded.
Let's just go back.
Just
Amend the motion, have them removed from C1 and C2.
Just keep it simple and remove from C1 and C2. Correct. Is that right? You good with that? Okay. Ralph, did you want to?
Through you to the counselor, the commercial rate is based on the assessment of the property.
Yeah.
It is not related to the volume that the restaurant does or anything of that nature. So whether or not there's a correlation that you're trying to pinpoint, I don't think we can provide it for you.
Okay. So do we have that? Okay.
I have one more question, actually. Can they sell beer with what the provincial government's doing? Can they do that?
Through the mayor to the councillor, there's no alcohol sales.
But are they allowed under provincial regulations, is my question?
They would have to go through the AGCO and go through that process and then come to us. I would say that because it's in a parking, most likely a parking lot, parking area, that it would be very challenging to find controls. And it's something that the municipality from a risk perspective probably would not want to sign off on.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience. The motion is just being transitioned to be put on screen for all of council to know what they're voting on, as well as the public to know what council is making a decision on. I will read out the recommendation for council to vote on once it's up. So the motion before council is that council receive the report titled DDCS 2026 Mobile Food Outlet Bylaw as information, and that a draft bylaw be brought back to council for consideration, including the evaluation of setbacks, licensing parameters, which excludes the lands within C1 and C2 zones.
Brandon.
So through the mayor to the clerk, would this be subject to lame duck and would this come back then in November?
Thank you, and through you, your worship, to the director. I believe that this could go ahead through the restricted acts period as there is not a sufficient cost or appointment. However, as it is reconsidered, I will evaluate, and if it has to be brought back in November, then it will be deferred as such.
All right. We have the motion in front of us. Is there a mover? You've moved it and you're seconded in favor of that motion. Opposed? 2 opposed. It's carried. Amber, the next is yours, and that's electronic signature policy.
Thank you. Mayor and members of council, staff are bringing forward proposed amendments to the municipality's electronic signature policy. While the policy has been in place since 2017, these amendments represent a significant update to the existing framework and are outlined in detail within the report. These updates were endorsed by the policy committee on July 15th and are being brought forward to council for approval through the policy committee recommendations later this evening. The current policy establishes the validity and authorized use of electronic signatures, but its scope is limited. And since the policy was adopted, the municipality has significantly expanded its use of digital workflows, electronic document management systems, and using electronic signatures to execute legal agreements. These practices have provided significant operational benefits, including improved efficiency and reduced administrative costs. With an increased use of electronic signatures, staff identified an opportunity to strengthen the existing policy and introduce additional governance provisions. Key updates include an expanded scope, adding definitions to improve consistent interpretation and application of the policy, establishing requirements for authentication and audit trails, introducing criteria for approved electronic signature platforms, and clarifying records management requirements. The updated policy also introduces security requirements to protect authentication credentials and address any misrepresentation. Overall, the proposed amendments are intended to support operational efficiency, strengthen oversight, and mitigate risk when using electronic signatures for municipal business. And staff are recommending that council receive the report titled Updates to the Electronic Signature Policy as information, and to consider approval of the updated electronic signature policy through the policy committee recommendations.
Thank you, Amber. Any questions for Amber on that? No questions? All right, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Nerda, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Thanks, Amber. Committee reports, Lake Huron Primary,
Nothing at this time.
ABCA,
Yes, I will be attending awarding the Soil Conservation Award tomorrow evening. Also, next week, we will be doing our budget early to have it completed before the transformation February 1st next year.
okay, thank you. Any questions on that?
One more thing, I think council all got an email indicating that Nathan Schuyler will be the acting GM and until February 1st, at which time there'll be a more firm decision made.
Okay, thank you. Blue Water Recycling,
Nothing again.
Economic Development,
Thank you, your worship. The June minutes are there for review and any questions.
okay. Any questions on it? No questions. Local School Advisory,
Just to remind council that at AMO on August 18th, myself and the acting CEO and the director of economic development will be meeting with the parliamentary secretary for education and to discuss our school needs situation.
okay. Did I miss one? Recreation Committee,
Meeting coming up on 25th of the month.
25th. Policy Review Committee,
Thank you. Through you, you can see we have our minutes from the past meeting plus a number of policies that we're putting forward that have been amended. If there's questions, we can direct them to whoever is
Right.
necessary.
Councillor Nelson.
I just have one, that's on the mailbox policy, and it makes perfect sense to me, and I know that occurs periodically, particularly in plowing snow. The only question I have is, what about actually replacing the post into the ground? Is that the homeowner's responsibility, given that they had no fault in the process of losing the mailbox?
See.
So through your worship to the councillor, so the policy that you see here in front of you today is actually no change. So this would have been the policy that was approved last year. To your question, however, though, how the process works effectively, and you can see it in the policy as well, is if a resident has a concern of a damaged mailbox, they have 3 business days to obviously report that damage to the municipality for further investigation, which must also include that they provide us pictures, whatever their claim may be, et cetera. And then Public Works would obviously investigate it after that. How it would normally work is that all we would theoretically do is if it was determined that we did in fact damage the mailbox through our snow plowing operations, we would just issue the money to them. We wouldn't actually do the work. So they would have to replace the posts themselves and we would just give them money.
Would they be compensated for the equipment they have to use to dig a hole in the middle of winter?
So through your worship to the council, the way the policy reads now is that we would only reimburse what is in the fees and charges bylaw,
Okay.
which would not cover that.
Okay. Yes, we had a meeting on Monday night. It was well attended by Councillor Daigle, myself, Chief Jones, and Deputy Chief, and of course Yolanda, our recorder. Some people that were unable to make it, which is okay. But we got the job done, right? And we firmed up the date for October 3rd, I believe. I think our economic development people are supposed to attend and help us do more work on the firefighter appreciation evening. Unfortunately, they were unable to make it. I don't know if you have any updates for us on that.
Through the mayor to the councillor, I believe our interim CEO was given the updates of where we're at this time. We have had catering booked and entertainment is booked, so.
Through your worship, the councillor, just that I was provided those updates and I did share them at committee.
Right. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Chief Jones?
Through the mayor to the councillor. No, I think you pretty well covered it all. We discussed the status of MVC billings, and we're making great strides in cost recovery in that. We discussed summary of activities and training center.
Oh, I did. I just, you might find this a point of interest though, because we did talk a little bit about the training center, which is something we've talked about in the past. And I did suggest that the chief and perhaps a couple other people should go up to Meaford, where we went, to look at the system that they have there, because it was pretty interesting.
Okay. Aqua client, anything there?
To your worship, nothing, and they've confirmed that we won't have the next meeting until after the election's over.
Okay. Middlesex OPP.
Upcoming meeting in September, the fourth and final one for this year, your worship. And then council will have to deliberate with Luca Badolf, who is a representative after November.
Okay. Thank you. Correspondence. We have two pieces of correspondence. First one is Donna Van Huydonk, council remuneration. And the second one, so I gotta find it now. It's on here. Second one is the James Brown Memorial Golf Tournament. Sorry, I didn't have it on my paper, but has everybody got that?
I just have a question.
Yep.
I know James Brown and the athlete and the singer and all that, but he's not a local resident, is he?
This is to do with who wants to, Brandon. Yeah, that's the best.
So
Thank you.
to the mayor and members of council, we received a request from, we had a incident on Park Hill Drive about a year ago with a farm accident where a 15-year-old lost their life, unfortunately. That 15-year-old was James Brown. They are doing a memorial golf tournament in his honor to try and support some of the things that he was very supportive of in that community. So that's where the request comes from. They reached out to me on Friday looking for a whole sponsorship. It's $200 to sponsor a hole, and then they asked about a silent auction. So I think what staff were thinking was council can have the option of a whole sponsorship, and then we can also look at doing a gift basket for their silent auction the same way we would do a gift basket for a community group. Because it falls outside of our policy, because this is not a local group, we would look for a council motion to support the gift basket or the whole sponsorship or both.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is for you, a question for you and a comment for you. We've had numerous calls with our fire department for the intersections of 7 and Center and Nairn. And over the past 30 days, I think we've had 5 to 6 different calls. And Chief, maybe you could help me out of how many calls we've had in that area, in those 2 intersections.
Through the mayor to the councillor, you're probably not far off on 5. I can get the accurate number, but I think since about June 30th, you're pretty close.
Thank you, Chief. And so this isn't now an issue between a county road and a municipal owned road. We have to make sure we are protecting our residents. So what are we gonna do? And maybe it's time that we wake up Mr. Trainee at the county for him to do something about this.
Okay, so I had a talk with Mr. Trainee. And first thing they're going to do is do traffic studies right away. Because the last ones they did, remember that bridge was out for a couple of years or for a good year and the traffic went down to nothing. They're doing updated traffic studies and I have requested the numbers of accidents and the results from that intersection.
Do we have a estimated time when those studies are going to be completed?
No, I'll get that for you. I just brought that to him yesterday. I'm gonna ask him for that and I'll get it to council.
Okay.
All right. But is the first step, is we do have to do that.
And is there anything in the interim that we can do as a municipality to protect those 2 intersections?
I honestly think that enforcement is our best tool. And again, I would request that we ask OPP for enforcement on those intersections. With a plain car preferably and not a cruiser,
And just an enforcement meaning just a car sitting there?
Yeah,
What is, I don't
Well-
understand what that would do.
it does radar as well for speeds And just, yeah, it makes a difference if you know that the police sit at an intersection.
But if you don't know that it's not say a four-way stop, you're gonna plow right through that regardless if you're doing.
But there's
the
nothing says
posting.
it's a four-way stop. Like,
I
I know,
understand that.
I mean, so it is a hot topic. There's no question.
Is there
I'm not
nothing,
arguing with you.
you know, is there anything that we can do? Put a bigger stop sign, a flashing light?
We don't do that. And no flashing light. That's it. We've
You know,
got to do something better. We got to do something better than that.
Right, because you know,
So-
just because it's out of our jurisdiction, it cannot be an excuse for inaction. We have to do something.
I don't disagree with you. We have in the past sent a letter. I suggest that North Middlesex, we draft a letter requesting more action on that intersection.
And where did that fall? On deaf ears?
No, I'm asking that now. This just came up yesterday where I was talking, just so you know, that's how fresh some of this is. And I've responded to one person who called about it. But I am trying to get more information. I've been told I will get that information. And on what our history has been there, recent history. And so then, but a letter from North Middlesex to the county engineer requesting some action on that intersection.
And can we
Yeah.
get numbers from the last, say, 5 years on this? Is that possible?
I don't know if we can get it possible, but we'll see what we can do. See what we can do. See how far back we can go.
Because surely if the county
It-
thought that
it was
the light
much-
at Main and 7 was a good idea,
It was
with
much,
0 accidents in the last 30+ years that I've been
Main
living
and
here.
7.
At the
Oh,
corner.
here, oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Surely they can't deny that
I'm
some
not,
traffic calming measures
I'm
at
not
those
denying it.
intersections.
I'm not denying it. But the last 5 years, as I said, it went down considerably for a couple of years and they put in the new rumble strips and stuff. And then the bridge closed. So it went down, but what was the cause of it going down? Right? But now I agree that they're back up this summer. It's been awful.
You know, it's not fair to our fire crews.
To anybody.
To back.
Not fair to anybody.
Time and time again to this exact same call.
So I'm saying that's what's being done. All I'm doing is talking about what has been talked about yesterday. But if council would like a letter to be sent, make that request.
I'll make that.
I'll go with the letter.
Yep. All right.
Most certainly.
And seconded by Councilor Nerda.
We also sent a letter to the OPP for increased presence.
Well,
Yes.
there's a letter, whatever. I think we need to certainly talk with them straight up about getting, that's, I think, face to face better with the OPP. They had a good business last weekend out on number 7, just outside of town, just east of town. They had a good business there. So those lights were on a lot. But so hopefully everything that we can do can help, right? Yep. I haven't read yet. Okay, comment?
Well, given that the engineer works for municipal council and works for the county, okay, which is governed by the county council, I think these letters should also go to county council. And I think county council does have the authority to direct the engineer to install traffic lights there, should county council decide that. I think of my recollection is that they did do that on Melbourne Road and Appin Road, County Road 14.
Melbourne, yeah.
I think that they did. Tragically, it wasn't until the child was killed there.
If you'd like to amend it to go to county council,
I do.
that's up to the person who made that.
Would you amend it to
I would
county
like
council?
it to add county council, and I would also like to amend it to add both Center Road and number 7. That's at the 2 intersections. Seven and Center.
I'm certainly not arguing with you on it. That's not what I was getting at.
I just had another thought. Could our legal council member request delegation at the county council to make a presentation? So it is possible. I know, but it's worth the effort, right? It's worth the effort.
I honestly would like to see the county, well, this isn't really the place. Look at look across the county, what are the worst intersections? That's up to county council. Any other questions on that? If not, in favor? You did it. In favor? In favor, all in favor, that's carried.
Just to acknowledge, your worship, one to the Highland Games Committee in Elsa Craig on their third annual games on July 25th. Very successful. Numbers were up this year. I think many of us were there for part of it, if not all of it, from council, and it was a wonderful event. And they've got approval to go forward from their committee for next year for the fourth annual. And secondly, I want to acknowledge the baseball game on Sunday in Elsa Craig between the OPP and the volunteer firemen. Tough luck for the firemen in terms of the final score, but it was a great game and a great fundraiser for the Elsa Craig Legion. So those of us who were there, you could see the mayor through the inaugural pitch. It was, that's a term. Exciting is a term. I'm going to use another one, but it was a great event, and thank you to all involved for that.
Yeah, I would like to add Park Hill Fair to that as well, for all the work that goes into that, and a successful event. I don't know, I got to attend breakfast on Sunday morning, but it wasn't quite as early as I thought. I got there a little too early, but we attended breakfast. Any other business? Seeing no other business, what is 9.1, the authorization of drainage amendments? We got a recommendation here on it. Are we putting that up on the screen? Okay. All right. Everybody's probably seen that. Done reading it? Is there a mover for that? Moved by Councilor Nerda, second by Councilor Canellison. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, deferred items, communication, including county council. We've already been talking about that, I think. Closed meeting. We need a motion to go into closed to receive information under the following exception: personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. Mover for that, Councilor Daigle, Councilor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.